Chapter 569. Sun Moon Sect, outside the sect leader's residence. A cowardly elder looked at the great elder who was attacking the sect leader's residence's array and said softly, "Second elder, isn't this too disrespectful? The old ancestor isn't dead yet." This elder was personally promoted by Jun Tian, and he still had respect for the sect leader's bloodline. However, after hearing this, the second elder in front of him sneered. The old ancestor isn't dead, but now he's as good as dead. Why does the Sun Moon sect belong to the sect leader's bloodline? In my opinion, the sect leader of the Sun Moon sect should have changed long ago. Us elders are the true masters of the Sun Moon sect. The Jun family is nothing. The second elder said coldly. Hearing this, the elder who spoke before shrank his head and retreated without saying a word. The wavering in his heart also became firm. Since they were already on the opposite side of the Jun family, then they might as well go all the way. If they won, then the Sun Moon sect would be theirs. If they lost, with Jun Tian's courage, he wouldn't dare to kill them. This was also what the elders relied on. The Sun Moon sect's power was complex, and it wasn't something that the sect leader alone could shake. Even if they lost, they wouldn't lose a single person. If they won, then they could occupy a great territory. And if they lost, then nothing would happen. Why not? Not far away, the Thousand Treasure Palace's palace master, Jiao Zhoming, had a gloomy expression. Looking at the sect leader's residence's array that was on the verge of collapse, he felt very happy. Huh, sect leader? Young master? And that unknown kid? When the great elder breaks through the array, all of you will die. Jiao Zhoming laughed loudly. Previously, they had admitted defeat to stall for time. Now that they were prepared, they naturally came out to kill. At this moment, a terrifying flame shot up into the sky from the sect leader's residence. In the next moment, a tall figure stepped out of the sect leader's residence. How dare you? How dare you attack the sect leader's residence's array? Do you know that this is disrespectful? Jun Tian stood high up in the sky, looking down at the crowd with a face full of rage as he roared. In the next moment, a terrifying flame descended from the sky and attacked the great elder and the others who were attacking the formation, forcing them back. Right now, Jun Tian was the Sun Moon sect leader, the glorious Sun Spirit King. And being forced back, head elder was not surprised at all. He had long expected that Jun Tian would definitely make a move. However, what could they do even if they made a move? There were so many elders here. If one of them died, the others would definitely rebel. At that time, the Sun Moon sect would be torn apart. Heresy? Sect Master, listen to me while I'm still calling you Sect Master. A wise man submits to circumstances. The great elder stood below and looked at Jun Tian. He sneered and said, "In the current Jun family, other than you, who else can shoulder the burden? Jun Aoyang hasn't grown up yet, and the great ancestor is about to die. The Jun family is no longer worthy of the position of clan head," the great elder stated. Upon hearing this, Jun Tian's gaze turned cold. The flames in his hands flared, but he didn't make a move. Seeing this, head elder was overjoyed. It was good that Jun Tian didn't make a move. If he didn't make a move, he would have a chance. If they allowed Jun Tian to go crazy and kill them without caring about anything else with the terrain of the Sun Moon sect, more than half of them would die here. Although you have been forced to abdicate from the position of clan head by us, it is only temporary. When we lead the Sun Moon sect to glory again, will anyone remember your past? At that time, it is not impossible to make you a supreme elder. Head elder patiently guided. Hearing this, Jun Tian didn't even bother to raise his eyebrows. He didn't make a move, but he didn't speak either. The reason why he came out was to buy time for the Tianyang inside. As long as the spirit life pill was successfully refined, then this group of people would have no value. So what if the forces behind this group of people were strong? In front of the great ancestor, they were just dregs. As long as the great ancestor was still alive, they wouldn't dare to be presumptuous. As for the responsibility of an elder, there was no one in the Jun family's direct line of descent. However, this didn't mean that there was no one loyal to the Jun family. If they died, there would naturally be someone capable to replace them. What? Not saying anything? Think about it carefully. The June family's power is gone. Us elders should be the ones in charge. Head elder said. Hearing this, June Tion's expression didn't change. At this moment, a terrifying light suddenly shot up into the sky from the clan head's residence. The emerald light that was full of vitality almost illuminated the entire sun-moon sect. An aura of vitality also spread out from the clan head's residence. The whole world was refreshed. Seeing this, head elder's expression changed drastically. You arranged for an alchemist to refine the pill inside. Head elder roared angrily. He was extremely anxious. Looking at the phenomenon of heaven and earth when the pill was formed, it was definitely not an ordinary item. In other words, this pill could really restore the great ancestor of the sun-moon sect. This was definitely not something they could tolerate. Damn it! Everyone, attack together. Break the formation and kill the great ancestor before he consumes the pill. Otherwise, we are dead. Head elder roared. Hearing this, everyone came to their senses. They no longer cared about the great ancestor and charged towards the clan head's residence. As for head elder, he personally went into the battle. He soared into the sky and charged towards June Tion. I will stop June Tion. You guys quickly break the formation and kill the great ancestor. Head elder said. Hearing this, everyone nodded. At this moment, June Tion smiled faintly. A bunch of ants. I didn't kill you before. Did you really think that I couldn't kill you? June Tion laughed. Then he looked at head elder in front of him and punched out. Flames rose. Sun-moon heavenly wheel. What? Sun-moon heavenly wheel. Head elder's expression changed drastically when he saw this. Unfortunately, how could his sun-moon heavenly wheel compete with June Tion's sun-moon heavenly wheel? In just an instant, head elder's sun-moon heavenly wheel was destroyed. Head elder himself was also sent flying by this punch, spitting out countless mouthfuls of blood. Seeing this, everyone's hearts trembled. Just as they were about to leave, a terrifying aura directly suppressed countless people in the clan head's residence. Even June Tion was suppressed by this aura and fell from the sky, almost falling flat on his face. However, the others were even worse. The formation of the clan head's residence was already full of cracks. However, they could no longer launch the final attack, because under this aura, everyone had already knelt down. And far away from the sun-moon sect, countless people felt this aura. They were all in disbelief and then knelt down excitedly. And in the sky above the clan head's residence, an old figure slowly rose into the sky. This was the aura of a Heaven Ascension Realm cultivator. Chapter 570. Heaven Ascension Realm, a realm that stood at the pinnacle of the continent. Even among the upper echelons of true martial Holy Lands, there weren't many who had such battle prowess. In other words, with a Heaven Ascension Realm elite, the Sun-Moon sect could possibly become a martial Holy Land. Heaven Ascension Realm. The first elder was scared out of his wits at this moment. He looked at the Sun-Moon sect's old master in disbelief, who was standing in the sky like a giant. His entire mind was trembling. He had never imagined that the Sun-Moon sect's patriarch, who was about to die, would transform into a Heaven Ascension Realm elite at the last moment. A Heaven Ascension Realm elite that could crush 1,000 or 10,000 of him with a single finger. It's over. It's completely over. The great elder's heart sank. In the sect leader's mansion, Tianyang also let out a sigh of relief. Then his face turned pale. Just as he was about to fall, Jun Aoyang caught him. Brother Tianyang, I can't thank you enough. Jun Aoyang said solemnly. I swear in the name of the future sect leader of the Sun-Moon sect that if I become the sect leader, I will use the power of the Sun-Moon sect to help you. I will never forget this kindness and will remember in my heart. At this moment, Jun Tian suddenly stood up and said to Tianyang, I swear in the name of the current sect leader of the Sun-Moon sect. As long as the sect leader of the Sun-Moon sect can help Tianyang, even if the Sun-Moon sect has to go through water and tread on fire, we will not hesitate. I will never forget this kindness and will remember it in my heart." At this moment, the old ancestor of the Sun-Moon sect nodded his head as well. His old but vigorous voice resonated through the clouds. "I swear in the name of the Sun-Moon sect patriarch that the Sun-Moon sect will use the power of the entire sect to help you. I will never forget this kindness and will remember it in my heart." The Sun-Moon sect's patriarch said solemnly. Almost the entire Sun-Moon sect, the inner city of Sun-Moon City, and even the outer city heard it. Instantly, countless people's hearts were filled with shock. The Sun-Moon sect's patriarch, the current sect leader, and the future sect leader all made such a solemn promise to the same person. Didn't that mean that the entire Sun-Moon sect was under his control? Just how great of a favor was it for these 3 generations to act like this? Could it be that the reason why the old ancestor of the Sun-Moon sect was able to break through to the heavenly completion stage was because of this person called Tianyang? Zhou, Shandao muttered. At this moment, Jiao Zhoming's face turned pale. He suddenly remembered that Jun Aoyang seemed to have called that young man. Tianyang. It's over. It's all over. Jiao Zhoming's face was gloomy. At this moment, thunderclouds started to gather in the sky. A huge amount of thunder calamity energy was gathering in the sky. Seeing this, the Sun-Moon sect's old ancestor's face turned a lot more serious. On the other hand, Tianyang narrowed his eyes and looked at the churning tribulation clouds in the sky. He carefully observed for a long while before withdrawing his gaze. There's no hope of becoming an emperor, and it's difficult to become an emperor, Tianyang muttered to himself. When one reached the heavenly completion stage, the first heavenly tribulation one experienced was enough to see the future achievements of the heavenly completion stage. When Sword Saint Zhou Xing reached the heavenly completion stage, the entire central region was covered by the vast and mighty heavenly tribulation clouds. The terrifying pressure suppressed all the experts in the central region. Even the emperors who had reached the heavenly completion stage long ago were the same. When the Ice Emperor reached the heavenly completion stage, it was slightly inferior, but it also covered half of the central region. When Tianyang reached the heavenly completion stage, the heavenly tribulation clouds he attracted covered the entire central region, as well as the spirit martial region and the firmament territory. The heavenly tribulation at that time was also the strongest heavenly tribulation. In the history of the heaven continent, it was only inferior to the great destruction of civilization. Even the Origin Emperor Su was slightly inferior. At that time, the heavenly tribulation attracted by the Sun-Moon sect's patriarch only covered a large part of the eastern region of the central region. It was not even 1/3 of the Ice Emperor's, 1/6 of Sword Saint Zhou Xing's, and 1/18 of Tianyang's. With a heavenly tribulation of this level, unless one had an extremely powerful fortuitous encounter, it was impossible to become an emperor. Even becoming an emperor was difficult. At that time, the heavenly tribulation had already arrived. Boom, boom, boom. Countless thick thunderbolts fell from the sky and attacked the Sun-Moon sect's patriarch. The Sun-Moon sect's patriarch's face was solemn as he used all his skills and exploded with endless means to meet the attack. Countless people stared at the heavenly tribulation, trying to see some of its mysteries. Even Jun Tian, who hated the great elder to the core, stared at the heavenly tribulation without blinking. If nothing unexpected happened, he might also reach the heavenly completion stage in the future. Therefore, it was extremely important to watch the heavenly tribulation descend at a close distance. Jun Aoyang was the same, as were the other places in the eastern region of the central region. Almost everyone stared at the heavenly tribulation without blinking. As for Tianyang, he found a reclining chair and half reclined on it. He found a backlit spot and closed his eyes to rest. He had seen who knew how many heavenly tribulations stronger than this one. Instead of risking his dog eyes being blinded, he might as well rest for a while. Refining spirit life pills that were of a higher level took quite a toll on him. After a total of 6 hours, the heavenly tribulation gradually disappeared. The The Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch stood in the sky. The injuries on his body were being nourished by the power of the heavenly tribulation and were rapidly recovering. His slightly unstable aura had also completely stabilized. Roar! The Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch roared at the sky, and the heavenly completion stage's aura surged out. The entire central region could hear it clearly. Countless powerhouses felt a chill in their hearts. From now on, there was another heavenly completion stage powerhouse on this continent. After a full 10 minutes, the Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch finally calmed down. He retracted his heavenly completion stage aura and looked towards the group of elders. He spoke indifferently. You're the sect master. You can settle it yourself. Those who dare to resist will be killed without mercy. The Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch said. Hearing that, Jun Tian's heart trembled. He leaped up, and a ball of blazing flame appeared in his hand. Those who don't want to die, stand where you are obediently. Those who resist or run will die for their crimes. Those who don't die for their crimes will wait for their trial. Jun Tian said proudly. Hearing that, the arrogant elders all stood where they were, not daring to move as if they had been hit by a body immobilization spell. They were afraid that if they moved, Jun Tian would use the reason of resisting to kill them. By then, they would have nowhere to cry when they reached the netherworld. In the sect master's residence, the Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch looked at everything around him and sighed in his heart. Back then, the sect master's residence was so glorious. In the end, in just a few short months, he had seen so much of the fickleness of human nature. The bustling and glorious sect master's residence was desolate in his heart. Then, the Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch walked past this area and came to an empty space behind the sect master's residence. Looking at Tianyang, other than deep gratitude, there was also deep shock in his eyes. He could vaguely feel the immense power on Tianyang's body that was enough to kill him in an instant. Then, ignoring Jun Aoyang's call, the Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch strode over to Tianyang. Then he knelt on one knee. Chapter 571. Thank you. Tianyang nodded slightly and closed his eyes after hearing the respectful words of thanks. When Jun Aoyang saw this, he was so shocked that he couldn't even speak. In his opinion, even if it was all because of Tianyang, there was no need for his ancestor to kneel on one knee, since he had become a heavenly completion stage expert and stood at the peak of the continent. Moreover, what was with Tianyang's reaction? He nodded and closed his eyes again. Even those in the third or fourth stage of the heavenly ascension realm wouldn't have dared to do that. However, the Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch didn't mind. He nodded respectfully and retreated. In his opinion, Tianyang was definitely an unfathomable powerhouse. He must have cultivated some special technique to be like this. His true strength was much stronger than his own. For someone who was far above him, the Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch wouldn't feel anything even if he knelt on both knees, let alone on one knee. What's more, Tianyang had saved his life. All right, the great master is tired. Yang, send him to the guest room to rest. Remember, don't neglect him. The Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch stood up and said to Jun Aoyang solemnly. Jun Aoyang nodded blankly. Then, the Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch took another look at Tianyang before leaving. These elders weren't the only ones causing trouble in the Sun-Moon sect. There were also many disciples and deacons with impure thoughts. He had a lot of things to do now. Even if Tianyang had done him a great favor, it wouldn't be good for him to stay here forever. At this moment, Tianyang opened his eyes and jumped down from the recliner. Tianyang looked in the direction the Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch had left and chuckled. This guy isn't stupid after all. If the Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch wanted to be ungrateful after becoming a heavenly ascension realm powerhouse and snatched the Tianji Sword Emperor's inheritance and the Taishu Emperor's inheritance from Tianyang, Tianyang wouldn't have held back. However, the Sun-Moon Sex Patriarch didn't do that. Perhaps it was because Tianyang was too powerful. However, Tianyang could still see that the Patriarch was truly grateful. Yawn. I'm so tired. Where's the guest room? I need to sleep to replenish my energy. Tianyang yawned. Hearing this, Jun Aoyang nodded. He was still a little confused as he brought Tianyang to the guest room. After entering the guest room, they cleaned the dust. Then Tianyang lay on the soft bed and fell asleep. Ling Yuhan stayed behind. After all, the Sun Moon sect had just calmed down. As the young sect master, Zhu Naoyang couldn't be absolved of responsibility. Moreover, it was a good time for him to establish his prestige. After all, if he hadn't met Tianyang in the Taishu mystery realm, the Sun Moon sect's patriarch would have died a long time ago. Moreover, the Sun Moon sect's first heavenly ascension realm powerhouse wouldn't have appeared. As for Tianyang, he didn't mind. He wasn't a stingy person. If his fame could help Zhu Naoyang, Tianyang naturally wouldn't be stingy. After all, it wouldn't do him any harm. Of course, it wouldn't do him any good if he was used. However, Tianyang slept for 3 days and 3 nights. Tianyang had used up a lot of energy to refine the spirit life pill, even with the spiritual energy of the peak of the heavenly ascension realm. Just refining it took Tianyang 20 hours. The time needed to condense the pill was much shorter. However, it still required a lot of energy. For an entire day, Tianyang continuously circulated the divine desolate heavenly spirit art to absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. He converted it into true yuan and poured it into the heavenly annihilation flame seed to refine the pill. The consumption of energy, true yuan, and spiritual energy was difficult to estimate. If it was another grade 5 alchemist, they would have died from exhaustion. Tianyang slept comfortably in these 3 days. However, the Sun Moon sect's patriarch, Jun Tian, and the others were extremely busy. After all, in the chaos, many elders had either been killed or had their cultivations crippled. As such, it was only natural that the position of elder had become vacant. Although the Sun Moon sect was full of talents, it was extremely difficult to find so many in such a short time. Therefore, when Tianyang woke up, Jun Tian and the others barely managed to settle everything. It's all thanks to the Patriarch's heavenly ascension realm strength. Otherwise, the forces behind those people wouldn't have let it go so easily. Jun Tian breathed a sigh of relief. Hearing this, Tianyang faintly nodded. After breaking through to the heavenly ascension realm, the Sun Moon sect's patriarch had become a peak overlord level existence in the eastern central region. Otherwise, those people might not be so cooperative. Of course, other people's flattery was also a part of it. If you don't want to do it, then it's fine. I'll do it. A heavenly ascension realm expert and the patriarch of a first-rate force. Who wouldn't want to curry favor with such an expert? Right, Grandmaster Tianyang, you've been at the peak of the half-step sea of Soul Realm for a long time, right? Jun Tian said after reporting the situation. Hearing this, Tianyang rubbed his nose. Was it very long? A few months, was it very long? However, Tianyang didn't deny it. After all, after going through so many battles, his true yuan cultivation had already reached a certain level. In addition, although refining pills had consumed most of his true yuan, it had also brought about an even stronger recovery of true yuan. The current Tianyang could be said to be at the peak of his peak state. Therefore, Tianyang immediately understood Jun Tian's words. I'm about to break through. What do you want to say? Tianyang smiled faintly. Hearing this, Jun Tian's thoughts were exposed, and he was a bit embarrassed. Then he smiled and said, I remember that there's a spiritual pond within my Sun Moon sect that's extremely rich in spiritual chi. If Grandmaster enters it, breaking through to the sea of Soul Realm will be easy. Of course, Grandmaster's disciple can also enter. Jun Tian seemed to be afraid that Tianyang wouldn't agree, and hurriedly added, This spiritual pond is called the Sacred Spirit Pond. Although it's precious, it's much inferior to the Patriarch's. Grandmaster, don't refuse, it's just a little bit of thanks. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his brows. Although it was precious, it was just a little bit of thanks, and naturally wasn't the truth. Tianyang had heard of the Sacred Spirit Pond before. It was one of the most precious treasures since the founding of the Sun Moon sect. According to legends, it was an existence that came from outside the Tianshao Great World. It only opened once every 10 years, and the abundant spiritual chi it brought was almost enough to explode a spirit king. To actually give away such an existence just like that the Sun-Moon sect's boldness was truly extraordinary. However, Tianyang didn't refuse and laughed lightly. Since it's your kind intentions, it's not good for me to refuse. Chapter 572. The Sacred Spirit Pool was one of the largest cultivation caves in the Sun-Moon sect. At the same time, it was also the best one. Jun Tianyi, the Sun-Moon sect's ancestor, had chosen to build the Sun-Moon sect here precisely because of the existence of the Sacred Spirit Pool. However, although the Sacred Spirit Pool was powerful, it only opened once every 10 years. Coincidentally, Tianyang had encountered it this time. The Great Elder had chosen this time to act. If the Jun family had not collapsed, Zhou Xingtian would not have been able to enter the Sacred Spirit Pool. For the sake of the Sacred Spirit Pool, the Great Elder had no choice but to act now. Unfortunately, he had encountered Tianyang. Naturally, the quota for the Sacred Spirit Pool was given to Tianyang. Legend has it that even if a Sea of Soul Realm cultivator enters the Sacred Spirit Pool, they can at least break through one level. Master Tianyang, with your great talent in cultivation, you can definitely step into the Sea of Soul Realm. Jun Tian said with a smile as they walked. Tianyang nodded slightly, declining to comment. It was already extremely difficult to break through from the Transformation Realm to the Dao Fire Realm, let alone from the Dao Fire Realm to the Sea of Soul Realm. With naturally terminated meridians, Tianyang's every step on the path of martial arts was different from others. It was enough for ordinary people to open their spiritual sea. However, he had to open up an endless spiritual sea to reach the Sea of Soul Realm. The difficulty of this was much more terrifying than going through the 10,000 divine fire 3 times. Sir, at this moment, in an empty space, the 2 guards saw Jun Tian and immediately bowed their heads respectfully. They had only been chosen to guard this place for the past 3 days. Compared to their previous ordinary status as deacons, they were much stronger now. Therefore, they were extremely grateful to Jun Tian. Jun Tian nodded. He was extremely respectful to Tianyang, but to his subordinates, he naturally had to maintain the dignity of Spirit King Glorious Sunday. It's about to open now. That's right. According to the time, the Sacred Spirit Pool will open in a quarter of an hour, the guard said. He then looked at Tianyang and Ling Yuhan, who were beside Jun Tian. Since when did 2 people enter the Sacred Spirit Pool? Moreover, these 2 people looked very unfamiliar. The Great Elder had fallen, but young Lord Jun Aoyang was still here. As if he had seen through the doubts of the 2 guards, Jun Tian indifferently said, "If not for Grandmaster Tianyang, I'm afraid that the old ancestor would have already been persecuted by that scoundrel, the First Elder. The 2 of you would naturally have died under the First Elder's butcher's knife. Therefore, this Sacred Spirit Pool naturally belongs to Grandmaster Tianyang." The 2 guards were shocked when they heard this, and they instantly came to an understanding. It turned out that the change in the Sun-Moon sect that was enough to shake the entire Eastern Central Territory was because of this young man. Thinking up to this point, the 2 guards didn't dare to be disrespectful and respectfully greeted Heavenly Sunday Tianyang. On the other hand, did not feel anything. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and spread out his soul power. There was still a quarter of an hour before the Sacred Spirit Pool opened. In Tianyang's eyes, heaven and earth, the entire Sun-Moon sect, and the source of the energy was in front of him. It was in the empty space. So, it's in another space. No wonder. Tian Shao, great world. Tianyang narrowed his eyes. He thought to himself, in his eyes, the source of the energy was just a branch of an enormous energy source. In other words, the entire Sacred Spirit Pool was just a branch of an enormous energy source. Just this branch was already so powerful. If the main body came, even the power of the entire Tian Shao great world might not be able to withstand it. Outside of this world, there is indeed an even more exciting martial way. 15 minutes. The Sacred Spirit Pool is open. Jun Tian's eyes widened when he felt the energy of heaven and earth around him. A deep spatial crack. pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Just breathing it in was enough to make one feel refreshed. It was hard to imagine how pure the spiritual energy of heaven and earth would be behind the spatial crack. The sacred spirit pool. Jun Tian said excitedly. The sacred spirit pool was very attractive even to someone of his level. It was just that the effect wasn't as strong as it was to the younger generation. But it didn't stop him from being excited. Yuhan, let's go. Tianyang nodded. Then, he took a step forward. The surrounding space trembled. The spatial crack widened. Ling Yuhan nodded. She walked in as well. After the two of them entered, the spatial rift remained for 10 minutes before it quietly closed. The sacred spirit pool could be open for a month at most. How much could be absorbed in this month depended on the ability of the person who entered. Inside the sacred spirit pool, Tianyang's figure flashed. He arrived above this space. It was different from the pitch-black darkness he had imagined. The sacred spirit pool was extremely bright. Below his feet, the colorful spiritual energy of heaven and earth was emitting a pure and strong aura. The divine, desolate, heavenly spirit art in Tianyang's body began to circulate unconsciously. With every circulation, Tianyang felt that his Sky Yuan true essence had become a little stronger. What a strong spiritual energy of heaven and earth! Tianyang couldn't help but exclaim. Ling Yuhan looked at Tianyang deeply. Then she went in. Ever since she had entered the great void mystic realm, her cultivation had become much weaker than Tianyang's. If this continued, she would become a burden to Tianyang. But Ling Yuhan didn't want that. The sacred spirit pool was an opportunity for her to catch up to Tianyang again. Ling Yuhan had already started cultivating. Tianyang wasn't in a hurry. Carefully observing his surroundings, Tianyang's eyebrows twitched. He looked surprised. What a guy. I didn't expect this sacred spirit pool to come from a powerful existence above Wu Zun's realm. Could it be that the realm above Wu Zun's realm is the Saint Realm? Tianyang muttered to himself. However, these were all realms in another world. Tianyang hadn't recovered to his peak state yet. Even if he racked his brains, he probably wouldn't be able to figure it out. Thus, Heavenly Sun entered this extremely vast and boundless seven-colored spiritual pool. The divine, desolate heaven spirit art in his body began to circulate. The 108 drops of Sky Yuan, True Yuan, began to shine. Next, Chapter 573. Endless Spirit Sea. The body refinement realm was the perfect body refinement realm. The clear Qi realm was the extreme Qi Sea of 100 Zhang. The elemental transformation realm was the heavenly Yuan, True Yuan realm. The Tao fire realm was the 10,000 divine fire. These four realms were all basic realms, and the Spirit Sea realm was the last of the basic realms of the divine, desolate heaven spirit arts. As for the last fundamental level, the boundless spiritual ocean that was needed to be opened was naturally different from that of ordinary people. Boundless Spirit Sea, with Tian Yuan and Zhen Yuan as the foundation. It absorbs boundless spirit Qi of heaven and earth and opens up a spirit sea that can contain unlimited Zhen Yuan. Once I succeed, not only will my cultivation base be able to break through to the Sea of Soul realm, but it will also be difficult for me to completely exhaust my Zhen Yuan. Tianyang's eyes sparkled as he recalled all the characteristics of the boundless spirit sea. Back then, he had used heavenly origin and true essence as the foundation to open up the boundless spiritual sea. The amount of true essence he could absorb was already terrifying. Now, his Sky Origin True Yuan had reached the perfect 108 drops. Furthermore, the last drop was formed by the 9-colored Xinguang. Tianyang wasn't very clear about the strength of 9-colored Xinguang, but he knew very well that 9-colored Xinguang was definitely much stronger than anything he had ever seen. With the 9-colored Xinguang as the main body, the Sky Origin True Essence was already completely superior to that of his previous life. And with the Sky Origin True Essence as the foundation, the Endless Spirit Sea was definitely much more powerful than that of his previous life. Right now, my physical strength, True Yuan cultivation, and soul strength have all reached their peak. If I don't open it now, when will I? Tianyang laughed. In the next moment, the true essence within his body began to wildly fluctuate. Forming hand seals with both hands, countless mysterious seals flew out and turned into a mid-grade heaven-ranked martial skill, heaven-devouring seal. Devour, Tianyang roared. In the next moment, the endless spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the sacred spirit pool turned into a torrent of spiritual chi and rushed into the devouring heaven seal. In the next moment, the 108 drops of sky origin true essence in Tianyang's body also began to tremble rapidly. With the 108th drop of nine-colored Xinguang as the center, a perfect structure was constructed, and the torrents of spiritual energy directly rushed into this structure. Hiss! Tianyang sucked in a breath of cold air. His face twisted a little, and the 108 drops of heaven origin true essence trembled slightly. This torrent of spiritual energy was truly not something that ordinary people could withstand. However, Tianyang could still hold on. Devour as much as you can. Tianyang raised his head and roared. The devouring power of the heaven-devouring seal surged once more. A torrent of spiritual chi gathered and rushed into his body. The divine desolate heaven spirit art revolved with all its might. This was the final step of the divine desolate heaven spirit art's foundation. If he didn't succeed, he would die trying. As the torrent of spiritual chi gathered, the embryonic form of the spirit sea, constructed by the sky, origin true essence, was gradually filled with the extremely pure spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Then, the divine desolate heaven spirit art began to refine. After entering Tianyang's body, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was extremely peaceful. Not long after, it turned into a sea of true essence. It could be said that as long as Tianyang wanted to, he could use this spirit sea as the foundation to reach the spirit sea realm. Even so, Tianyang's spirit sea realm was much stronger than an ordinary spirit sea realm cultivator. However, Tianyang still did not stop. The moment the spirit sea was filled with true essence, the surging soul power rampaged. It directly compressed the ball of true essence into the size of a drop of sea water. Ah! Tianyang could not help but roar. His flesh exploded and blood flowed out, almost dyeing the sacred spirit pool around him red. However, Tianyang still did not stop. Endless. If it was only to this extent, how could it be called endless? Tianyang was clear that his path of martial arts was a path that defied the heavens. Innately terminated meridians could not cultivate, but he forced himself to cultivate. That was a path that defied the heavens. Every step was a path that defied the heavens. And every step was a path that defied the heavens. If he did not condense the endless spirit sea, then even if he could fight against Heaven Ascension Realm cultivators when he was at the Spirit Sea Realm, it would be impossible for him to break through to the Heaven Ascension Realm. Not to mention finding the mastermind behind the great destruction of civilization and taking revenge. Compress for me. Then devour for me. Tianyang roared. Then the drop of true essence stabilized. The devouring heaven seal condensed again, swallowing a huge torrent of spiritual chi and pouring it into Tianyang's body. Ah! Tianyang screamed again. However, this time, his expression did not change much. When the spirit sea was full, it turned into true essence and was compressed again. Bang! 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 Tianyang's skin cracked inch by inch, and blood flowed out. However, Tianyang's expression did not change much. Devour again, transform again, and compress again. In the distance, Ling Yuhan, who was trying her best to devour the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, saw the bright red pool water around Tianyang and could not help but tremble. She only saw Tianyang beating everyone in front of others and looking down on the world. She had no idea how much Tianyang had sacrificed for all this. Become stronger. Only by becoming stronger can I not be a burden to master and not become a burden to him. Ling Yuhan clenched her teeth. The Ice Emperor's heavenly sword art operated, once again devouring a huge amount of spiritual chi of heaven and earth. At her waist, the precious nether spirit pearl, which had been sleeping for a long time, suddenly lit up. The nine-tailed fox Qianhan looked at the two of them from within and sighed softly. There was no day or night in cultivation, not to mention that this was the sacred spirit pool, which was always extremely bright. When Tianyang woke up from the cycle of devouring, transforming, compressing, and devouring again, he did not know how many days had passed. However, what made him satisfied was that the boundless spirit pool was finally filled. It's all thanks to this sacred spirit pool. Otherwise, I don't know how many years it would take to reach this step in the outside world. Tianyang laughed softly, then stood up. His cultivation was still at the peak of the half-step sea of Soul Realm. After all, filling the boundless spirit pool was only the first step. The second step, which was also the last step, was the most important, and that was to refine the boundless spirit pool. Bang! A golden flame burned within Tianyang's body. It was not the annihilation heavenly flame, but the divine desolate heavenly spirit art's flame of refinement, which could refine everything. The boundless spirit pool, which contained an unknown amount of true yuan, seemed to have sensed the danger of being refined and began to resist with all its might. However, Tianyang only smiled faintly. His battered body did not even tremble in the face of the boundless spirit pool's counterattack. This emperor created you. How could I let you run away? Tianyang laughed softly. In the next moment, the divine desolate heavenly spirit art's flame of refinement instantly covered the entire boundless spirit pool. The layer of barrier that was obstructing Tianyang also instantly exploded. Promotion to the Sea of Soul Realm. After the promotion, Tianyang's cultivation continued to rise along with the refining of the boundless spirit pool. First level of Sea of Soul Realm. Peak of Sea of Soul Realm. Second level of Sea of Soul Realm. Peak of second level of Sea of Soul Realm. Sea of Soul Realm. Chapter 574. Inside the Sacred Spirit Pool. Tianyang felt the abundant power in his body and clenched his fists. The Sacred Spirit Pool, which was extremely stable and far surpassed the central region, was actually cracking. Not bad at all. Tianyang chuckled. At this moment, he had the cultivation of the third level of the Sea of Soul Realm. If he were to face the Sky Demon Cult Elder from before, he would definitely be able to kill him instantly. If he were to use the Sky Devouring secret technique, he would even have the confidence to fight against Jiao Zhoming, the Lord of the Thousand Treasure Palace. If he were to face an existence at the level of Venerable Iron Bone, he would also have the power to protect himself. Moreover, Tianyang could clearly feel that after breaking through to the Sea of Soul Realm, his soul power seemed to be able to be used a little more. Although the strength of Tianyang's soul power had already far surpassed that of his previous life due to the nine-colored Xingguang and the various opportunities, if he were to fully unleash it, he would still explode. However, he now had another powerful trump card. His true dragon body had also strengthened a lot, and his soul power had also improved a little. However, there was no reaction from the Sky Cloud Sword. It seemed that the Sky Cloud Sword could only devour martial spirits and demonic chi. Although the sacred spirit pool came from another world, it didn't seem to have been devoured by the Sky Cloud Sword. However, just as Tianyang was lamenting in his heart, the Sky Cloud Sword suddenly trembled. Wu Zun's powerful aura, which far surpassed that of a spiritual weapon, was released from the Sky Cloud Sword. This is the unique power of the sacred spirit pool. Tianyang's eyes widened. He had just said that there was no reaction, and now it came to slap him in the face? However, Tianyang could now see that the Sky Cloud Sword seemed to be able to devour things here. However, what it devoured wasn't the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Instead, it was hidden in the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, an extremely faint aura that was almost undetectable. It was an aura that was above Wu Zun's realm, above that of a spiritual weapon. It seems that the sacred spirit pool is indeed extraordinary. Tianyang chuckled and clenched his fist. A surge of power reverberated in his body. I've struck gold this time. In the distance, Ling Yuhan was immersed in her cultivation. The surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth was gathering towards her body. She was also about to open her spiritual sea and reach the spirit sea realm. Over the next few days, Tianyang did not stay idle. He used the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to refine the stick sword and the great void sword embryo, improving their quality. He stabilized his cultivation, causing the boundless spiritual ocean to become even purer. By the time Tianyang was done, the sacred spirit pool was about to close. Yuhan, let's go. Sensing the sudden fluctuations in the surrounding space, Tianyang chuckled and stood up from the sacred spirit pool. The harvest from this trip to the sacred spirit pool had far exceeded Tianyang's expectations. Not only had he successfully broken through, but he had also strengthened his physical strength and the power of the heavenly sword. Upon hearing this, Ling Yuhan also stood up. The pool water that was condensed from the spiritual chi of heaven and earth did not wet her clothes at all. At this moment, Ling Yuhan's cultivation had also reached LV1 of the spirit sea realm. It had to be said that with the breakthrough of Ling Yuhan's cultivation, the previous four-tailed lunar fox had become a seven-tailed lunar fox. The power of the nine serenities saint body was also gradually erupting. Such a cultivation speed, if placed in the central region, would be among the top geniuses. Ling Yuhan nodded. At this moment, the space in front of them suddenly cracked open, leading to the Sun-Moon sect. Tianyang and Ling Yuhan did not linger. They stepped out and walked in. They're out. At this moment, Jun Aoyang, who had been waiting in the open space since dawn, suddenly widened his eyes and looked at the space crack that had opened. Then, two figures walked out of the sacred spirit pool. The man was tall, straight, and handsome. His aura was not obvious, so Jun Aoyang could not tell the depth of his cultivation. However, Jun Aoyang could feel a strong threat from him. The woman was petite and cute. Her face could be said to be the most beautiful in the world. Her aura was at LV1 of the spirit sea realm. Jun Aoyang was stunned when he saw the two of them. Tianyang's strength could be a threat to him, and Jun Aoyang was already mentally prepared. Previously, when Tianyang was at the peak of the spirit sea realm, he could easily beat him. Now that he had entered the sacred spirit pool, his strength must have increased greatly. However, the girl who did not have much of a presence before was also at the spirit sea realm. It seemed that Ling Yuhan's age was a little younger than Tianyang's. What the F***CK? Jun Aoyang could not help but complain. At this moment, Tianyang also turned around and laughed lightly. Long time no see. After cultivating in the sacred spirit pool for a month, apart from Ling Yuhan, there was no one else. The kind of lonely feeling made Tianyang feel as if it was a lifetime ago. Hearing this, Jun Aoyang nodded and looked at Tianyang curiously. Brother Tianyang, what's your cultivation now? In Jun Aoyang's opinion, although Tianyang's talent was strong, his cultivation speed was not off the charts. If Tianyang was weaker than himself, then he could at least regain some confidence. However, Tianyang laughed lightly and released his aura. LV3 of the spirit sea realm. Who? Jun Aoyang spat out a mouthful of blood. Big brother, are you even 18 years old? LV3 of the spirit sea realm? How am I, a 30-year-old youth, supposed to live? Although Jun Aoyang's talent was extraordinary, he was only at the peak of the second spirit sea realm and had not improved much. However, Tianyang went from the peak of the half-step spirit sea realm to the third spirit sea realm in a month. If such a terrifying speed was spread out, the entire sky continent would be shaken. Forget it, forget it. I can't be compared to a monster like you. Jun Aoyang took a while to recover, then said to Tianyang, "Oh right, brother Tianyang, are you interested in learning more about the martial arts conference?" Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and showed a trace of interest. Martial arts conference? Sun-Moon sect leader's mansion, inside the conference hall. Jun Tian came in front of Tianyang and said seriously to Tianyang, "The martial arts conference is a martial arts conference held by the major forces in the central region. It's a competition among the younger generation. The martial arts conference has a certain influence on the division of forces in the central region. Although the Sun-Moon sect's ancestor has broken through to the reaching heaven realm, he still has to participate in the martial arts conference. I don't know if I'll be participating, and I'll be participating in your name, right? Tianyang said with a chuckle. If it was just an introduction, there was no need for Jun Tian to come in person. However, since Spirit King Glorious Sun came in person, it was obvious what he meant. Jun Tian felt a little embarrassed when his thoughts were seen through. That's right. Of course I'll participate in the martial arts conference. Tianyang chuckled and said. Chapter 575. However, I will represent the Star's swordplay sect. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, Jun Tian, who had just seen a glimmer of hope, immediately had his hopes dashed. His entire being turned gloomy. All right, all forces are qualified to participate in the martial arts conference. Master Tianyang, since you are from the Star's swordplay sect, it is reasonable for you to represent the Star's swordplay sect. Jun Tian muttered. Upon seeing that, Tianyang felt a chill run down his spine. Uncle, you are a guy who is a few hundred years old. Even if you look like you are in your 40s or 50s, you still look ugly. However, Jun Tian did not care for long. After all, recruiting Tianyang was just an idea. It was the kind of plan that would benefit him if he agreed, but it was fine if he did not agree. As for the martial arts conference, Jun Tian was more inclined to let the Sun-Moon sect fight on their own. Of course, it would be best if the two super geniuses, Tianyang, joined. However, from the looks of it now, it seemed unlikely. Of course, Jun Aoyang and I are acquaintances. If we meet in the martial arts conference, I will help if I can. Tianyang smiled. Upon hearing that, Jun Tian also smiled. Thank you, Master Tianyang. By the way, Master Tianyang, you probably don't know the rules of the martial art conference, right? Let me explain it to you now, Jun Tian said. Upon hearing that, Tianyang's expression changed slightly as he listened carefully. The martial arts conference was organized by some martial arts holy lands in the central region. Countless forces participated in the conference. The main purpose was to compete for the most powerful young genius in the central region, and then recruit them or fight for more resources. The martial arts conference was divided into two levels. It was similar to the Great Void Secret Realm, as there were things like points. However, the points were not recorded on a special token like the Great Void Secret Realm. Instead, it was recorded on a unique mineral in the Secret Realm, Heavenly Cyan Crystal. This crystal existed in the Secret Realm, the Earth Emperor's Secret Realm. It also existed in the ferocious beasts in the Earth Emperor's Secret Realm. It was very helpful for cultivation. When the time came, the Heavenly Cyan Crystal would be used to settle the score. There were two levels. The first level was naturally the competition between the various sections. At the end of the martial arts conference, the number of survivors and the Heavenly Cyan Crystals in the hands of each sect would be used to determine the ranking. The previous first place was a martial arts holy land, 9 Heaven Palace. If one could obtain a ranking, they would be rewarded, for example, territory, spiritual of cultivation resources, treasures, spiritual weapons, and so on. The second level was an individual battle. An individual battle was a competition of the Cyan sects. Was a competition of Heavenly Cyan sect. The ones with the most numbers were the strongest geniuses of the central region. These strongest geniuses would usually be recruited and absorbed by the martial holy lands. Furthermore, some rewards would be given according to the rankings. For example, the champion of the previous martial arts competition, Ling Ao Tian from 9 Heaven Palace, received a usable upper-grade spiritual armor as a reward. Other than that, there are also pills, spirit crystals, and so on. For the sects, they would be able to obtain territory and resources. For the individuals, they would be able to obtain spiritual weapons and treasures. It was no wonder that so many sects and itinerant cultivators were so eager to participate in the martial arts conference. Not bad. This martial art conference is quite interesting. Tianyang chuckled. Jun Tian's mouth twitched when he heard that. Interesting. Master Tianyang, although you are powerful, there are many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in the middle region. Moreover, The martial arts conference is only held once every 20 years. Every time, it is not only the human race. There are also the dragon race, demon race, and other races. In the eastern region of the middle region, there might not be any genius that could be your opponent. However, that might not be the case in other places. Jun Tian said. Tianyang nodded when he heard that. He knew that there would always be someone better than him. Thank you for your help, sect leader Jun. The martial arts conference will be held in a month's time, right? At that time, I will help Sun Moon sect. Tianyang stood up and chuckled. Jun Tian nodded when he heard that. He could tell that Tianyang was planning to return to Star Sword sect. He smiled and said, "Do you want me to use my soaring shuttle to send you back?" Tianyang waved his hand and walked out of the door. The matter of Sun Moon sect had come to an end. Jun Tian's initial purpose of inviting him was probably because of the martial arts conference. However, Tianyang's current status in Sun Moon sect was almost no worse than Jun Tian's. Therefore, Jun Tian could not force him. Moreover, Tianyang's strength might not be worse than Jun Tian's. Looking at Tianyang's departing figure, Jun Tian let out a long sigh. Young people nowadays are really getting stronger and stronger. The back waves of the Yangtze River push the front waves, and the front waves die on the beach. Younger, you have to work harder. Jun Tian sighed, and then glared at Jun Aoyang, who was dozing off. Jun Aoyang shuddered when he heard that. Then, he bitterly received a torrential lecture from Jun Tian. Walking out of Sun Moon sect under the admiring gazes of everyone, Tianyang was speechless. He only felt uncomfortable all over. The feeling of being famous isn't bad, right? Ling Yuhan looked at Tianyang's appearance as if his arms and legs were not arms and legs, and suddenly laughed mischievously. Hearing that, Tianyang immediately ruffled Ling Yuhan's hair unhappily. "You little girl, it's fine if you don't take the bullet for your master, but you're still insulting your master here. Why don't you fly back, and Luo and I will take the Heaven Tower back?" The moment these words were spoken, Ling Yuhan was instantly dumbfounded. The mischievous smile from before was instantly wiped clean and replaced with an aggrieved expression. "Master, do you have the heart to let a beautiful young disciple fly countless miles by herself? If I could bear to, would you really fly back? Hurry up and go up the tower. Let's go." Tianyang smiled, summoned the Heaven Tower, and walked in. When Ling Yuhan saw that, she mischievously stuck out her tongue and walked in as well. After that, under the admiring gazes of the big shots of Sun Moon sect, Tianyang sat on the Heaven Tower and flew rapidly towards Star's Swordplay sect. Star's Swordplay sect. Sect leader, do you think we should participate in that martial arts competition? In the discussion hall, a half-step sea of Soul Realm old man asked Zhou Tong, who sat at the head of the table. Hearing that, Zhou Tong rubbed his temples, as if he had a headache. "Yes, of course we should. But after the big battle, our Star's Swordplay sect's vitality has been greatly damaged. Some of the stronger disciples are still fine, but the middle and upper disciples have suffered heavy casualties. Now that we've attracted a bunch of troublemakers, I'm afraid that once we enter, we'll be wiped out because of internal strife," Zhou Tong said in distress. Hearing that, the elder's eyes suddenly lit up. "Sect leader, don't we still have Master Tianyang?" Chapter 576. The distance from the Sun Moon sect to the Star's Swordplay sect was countless li. However, for Tianyang, who had already broken through to the Sea of Soul Realm, it only took him a few days. The Heaven Pagoda flew at extreme speed. After only 3 days, Tianyang had returned to the Star's Swordplay sect. The changes are quite big. Tianyang looked at the Star's Swordplay sect below him and chuckled. The last time he came here, the Star's Swordplay sect was still heavily damaged by the 3C of Soul Realm experts. Now, the Star's Swordplay sect had already recovered. Even the former Purple Sun sect's territory had become the Star's Swordplay sect's. If it weren't for the fact that the Star's Swordplay sect's high-end strength was still a little lacking, it would probably already be a second-rate force. I wonder if Zhou Tong is interested in participating in this martial art competition. If he isn't, then I can only participate in my own name," Tianyang muttered. Then he stepped out of the Heaven Pagoda, put it back into the spatial bag, and flew towards the Stars Swordplay sect. Arriving at the Stars Swordplay sect's mountain gate, Tianyang stopped and slowly walked towards the gate. Ooh! At the Stars Swordplay sect's mountain gate, the two guards saw Tianyang and Ling Tianyang walking over. Their faces couldn't be seen clearly, but from their auras, they were at least Sea of Soul Realm experts. In the entire Stars Swordplay sect, only Sect Master Zhou Tong, Great Elder, and a handful of genius disciples had Sea of Soul Realm battle strength. Now that two Sea of Soul Realm experts had come, whether they were friends or foes, they were a great threat. Light condensed on the spears in their hands. The two guards' faces were full of fear. When they saw Tianyang and Ling Yuhan's faces, they immediately felt deep veneration. "Greetings, Lord Tianyang," the two guards said in unison and knelt on one knee, appearing extremely respectful. Seeing this, Tianyang chuckled and extended his hand. Two gentle gusts of wind flew out and lifted the two guards up. No need for formalities, right? Zhou Tong is in the sect master's mansion right now, right? Hearing this, the two guards nodded. The sect leader is in the mansion. He seems to be looking for you. Sir Tianyang, do you need us to lead the way? The guard said, feeling extremely honored in his heart. That was Lord Tianyang. In the two calamities of the Star Sword sect, he had turned the tide and killed the old ancestor of the Purple Sun Martial School and led the powerful warriors of the Sun Moon Martial School to kill 3/3 layers C of Soul's Realm warriors. If it was said that Zhou Tong was an incomparably lofty sect master in the hearts of the people of Stars Swordplay sect, then Tianyang could be called the god of Stars Swordplay sect. Therefore, the two guards couldn't wait to find someone to replace them and bring Tianyang into the sovereign mansion. However, Tianyang chuckled and shook his head. No need, I know the way. Then, Tianyang brought Ling Yuhan and walked into the Stars Swordplay sect. After watching Tianyang leave, the two guards also turned their heads and praised, although Lord Tianyang is powerful, he's not very high up. Yeah, he's much stronger than those guys who think they're number two with a little strength. Speaking of which, Lord Tianyang's partner is so beautiful. Of course, how can Lord Tianyang's partner be bad? The two guards discussed. Even when they were changing places with others, they were still bragging. The two guards who heard him bragging had envious looks on their faces. Meeting Lord Tianyang and even saying a few words, in the eyes of the ordinary disciples of Star Swordplay sect, was simply a supreme honor. At this time, Tianyang had already entered the sect master's mansion and saw Zhou Tong. So you're not going to participate? Tianyang looked at Zhou Tong, who had a helpless face in front of him, and said. Hearing this, Zhou Tong shrugged. What can I do? The martial arts conference limits people to be under 100 years old. Although I meet the conditions, I still have sect affairs to deal with. Now that Star Swordplay sect is thriving, there are a lot of things to deal with. If I go to the martial arts conference, who will be in charge? Zhou Tong said helplessly. Hearing this, Tianyang also nodded. As the sect master, he was indeed very troublesome. But if you're not going to participate, does that mean Star's Swordplay sect won't participate in this martial arts conference? Tianyang frowned slightly and said, it was not impossible for them to participate in their own names, but first, it would be a lot of trouble. Secondly, this was a great opportunity for Star's Swordplay sect to develop. Tianyang and Sword Saint Zhou Xing had a deep friendship. Naturally, he would help Star's Swordplay sect if he could. Not really. This is a matter of developing Star's Swordplay sect and making a name for ourselves. How can we not participate? Zhou Tong said with a smile. Now we've recruited some disciples, all of whom are at the peak of half-step C of Soul Realm. There are also 2 old disciples who have broken through to the first level of C of Soul Realm. It should be enough to participate in the martial arts conference. Zhou Tong said. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. It should be enough. Then where are they? They're in the arena. You want to go there? But there are some troublemakers inside. Zhou Tong said with a smile. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Troublemakers? Sure, it's only interesting if there are troublemakers. Star's Swordplay sect arena. In my opinion, Since the two of you don't plan to compete for the position of leader, just let me be. My strength has reached the peak of half-step C of Soul Realm. Not much worse than you two. A somewhat arrogant-looking young man said. Hearing this, the two young men in front of him shook their heads. If Lord Tianyong doesn't come, there's no harm in giving you the position of leader. But what if Lord Tianyong comes? The two young men laughed. Hearing this, the arrogant young man's face immediately turned gloomy. Lord Tianyong, calling him Lord Tianyong all day long. It's only a few weeks until the martial arts conference begins, and this guy still hasn't come. Didn't he just kill a Purple Sun Sect ancestor? That Purple Sun Sect ancestor was only at the peak of the first level of C of Soul Realm, and he was also very old. Maybe I can even beat him. And the previous 3 third-level C of Soul Realm experts, it's probably because of the 2 helpers from Sun Moon Sect. All day long, they brag as if they're gods. I like to see how strong that Lord Tianyong is. The arrogant young man said angrily. Hearing this, the 2 young men's faces immediately turned cold. You dare to talk about Lord Tianyong like that? One of the young men said. Hearing this, the arrogant young man sneered. We haven't even seen him, and we're letting him be the leader. What if he's a silver spearhead? Hearing this, the young man couldn't sit still anymore. His face was filled with rage. Get over here. Indeed, letting him be the leader without even seeing him is indeed a bit inappropriate. At this moment, a burst of young laughter came from the door. Hearing this, the 2 young men's faces froze, and they immediately looked over with anger. But in the next moment, the 2 of them were stunned. Lord Tianyong. Hearing this, Tianyong chuckled and walked over. At this moment, the arrogant young man's face darkened. Looking at the face that was even younger than him, he quickly walked up to Tianyong. You're Tianyong. Chapter 577. The winner will be the leader. The arrogant young man said coldly. He had been fed up with the 2C of Soul Realm martial brothers calling him Lord Tianyong. Lord Tianyong. If Tianyong was really an expert, it would be fine. In this world, the strong were respected. As long as Tianyong was strong enough, he could be the leader. In the end, it was clear that Tianyong couldn't even compare to him. His aura was so weak that he couldn't sense it at all. His face was also very young, much younger than him. The arrogant young man even doubted if Tianyong was even 20 years old. A Sea of Soul Realm martial artist under 20 years old? How could it be? Therefore, the arrogant young man directly said this sentence. Compared to you? Hearing this, Tianyong's eyes moved slightly. He looked at the arrogant young man in front of him and carefully sized him up. His face could be considered handsome, but his unconvinced expression was too obvious. His first impression wasn't too good. The robe he was wearing was the robe of Star's Swordplay Sect. As for his cultivation, half-step Sea of Soul Realm, there was a faint sign of him breaking through to Sea of Soul Realm. No wonder this kid was so arrogant. That's right. In Sky Continent, strength is respected. The strong are respected. You can be the leader, but you must have strength. The arrogant young man said coldly. Hearing this, the 2C of Soul Realm martial artists couldn't stand it anymore. One of them hurriedly pulled the arrogant young man away, while the other came in front of Tianyong and said apologetically, I'm sorry, Lord Tianyong. This kid is the young master of Sun family in the biggest city nearby, Rivertomb City. He is used to living like a prince. That's why he is so arrogant. You are a magnanimous person. Don't bother with this kid. The arrogant young man didn't know Tianyong's strength, but as an old disciple of Star Swordplay Sect, he was very clear about it. He was there during the battle between the House of Ziyang and the House of Ziyang. His beautiful sword technique almost suppressed the House of Ziyang's ancestor. Even though the House of Ziyang's ancestor unleashed a shocking amount of power, he was still easily killed. The battle not long ago was even more violent and direct, instantly killing a third-level C of Soul Realm expert. Heavens! That was a third-level C of Soul Realm warrior. They were existences that they could only look up to. However, in the hands of Tianyong, they were as weak as tofu. They could not even withstand a few moves before their bodies and souls were destroyed and turned into ashes. That brat surnamed Sun actually wanted to challenge such a powerhouse. Was he out his mind? Don't be like that. There are quite a lot of unfamiliar faces here. I reckon that they won't be convinced if I'm the leader, right? Tianyang chuckled and took a few steps forward. Hearing this, the young man immediately cried bitterly in his heart. It's over. This kid surnamed Sun has really provoked the Tianyang. Looking around, Tianyang immediately had a direct understanding of the strength of this Star's Swordplay sect team. 2 first-level C of Soul Realm old disciples of Star's Swordplay sect, 3 peak half-step C of Soul Realm, and 5 half-step C of Soul Realm experts. Such a team could already be considered extremely strong for Star's Swordplay sect. However, I'll tell you the truth. In a martial arts competition, a team like yours can't even count as cannon fodder. Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, the few unfamiliar faces were instantly enraged. Let me go. Let me go. Senior Brother Tang, let me go. This kid dares to speak so arrogantly before becoming the leader. He must be taught a lesson. Hearing this, the young man surnamed Sun immediately struggled. At this moment, Tianyang glanced at the young man. The young man's face turned bitter, and he released the young man surnamed Sun suppression. Once the restraint was released, the young man surnamed Sun immediately jumped up and stomped in front of Tianyang. Kid, you're very arrogant. Didn't you want to fight me? Sure, I'll let you see the cruelty of the martial arts competition. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, the young man surnamed Sun became even angrier. Good. I like to see how our group of elites will become the cannon fodder you speak of. In the next moment, the young man surnamed Sun jumped up and arrived on the stage. Seeing this, Tianyang smiled faintly and walked up as well. Apart from the 2 C of Soul Realm youths, the other 7 people all surrounded them. They wanted to see how the young man, surnamed Sun, defeated Tianyang. Kid, you actually dare to provoke me, Sun Xing. Just wait to be trampled by me. The young man, surnamed Sun, looked at Tianyang opposite him and shouted arrogantly. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. You attack, I'll give you 3 moves. Tianyang smiled faintly. Hearing this, Sun Xing immediately revealed a trace of anger. Arrogant. Even the 2 C of Soul Realm youths revealed a trace of astonishment. They had seen Sun Xing's strength. Although he hadn't reached the C of Soul Realm, his battle strength was faintly at the level of the C of Soul Realm. Giving Sun Xing 3 moves was definitely 3 moves of the C of Soul Realm. Even if Tianyang's strength was heaven-defying, he couldn't block it. Even Zhou Tong didn't dare to say so. After all, although Sun Xing was arrogant, his strength was obvious to all. If he was really defeated by Sun Xing, then it would be a huge joke. Arrogant. Too arrogant. Everyone is clear about young Master Sun's strength. He has no problem fighting an ordinary first layer C of Soul Realm. This kid actually dares to give Sun Xing 3 moves? Below the stage, a half-step C of Soul Realm expert sneered. I'm afraid 2 moves. 2 moves, Sun Xing can defeat Tianyang. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Only Ling Yuhan stood at the side with a calm expression. She was very clear about Tianyang's strength. Not to mention giving Sun Xing 3 moves, even if it was 30 or 300 moves, it wouldn't be a problem. Since you're so arrogant, it's impossible for me not to teach you a lesson. Sun Xing snorted coldly, then directly punched out. Earth upper-class martial skill, Swimming Dragon Fist. The half-step C of Soul Realm's true Yuan surged. In the next moment, a dragon-shaped shadow condensed on Sun Xing's fist. In the next moment, a punch was thrown out. Boom! Tianyang didn't even dodge, allowing this punch to hit his chest. How is this possible? The dragon-shaped shadow hit Tianyang's body and actually disappeared in an instant. Tianyang also grinned. First move. Seeing this, Sun Xing revealed a trace of shock, then his face darkened. Looks like you still have some strength. However, in the face of true strength, no matter what you do, it's all in vain. Earth upper-class martial skill, Thunder Dragon Palm. Sun Xing threw out another punch. Thunder and dragon shadows intertwined, and in the next moment, a punch directly hit Tianyang's body. Bang! Tianyang also didn't move, but after receiving this punch, Tianyang also didn't move. How is this possible? Seeing this, Sun Xing was completely shocked. How strong was this guy's physical strength? His Thunder Dragon palm actually couldn't do anything to him? Second move. Tianyang smiled. Hearing this, Sun Xing's face completely darkened. Since that's the case, then you force me to use this move. Earth Upper Class Martial Spirit, Red Dragon. Sun Xing roared, and a red dragon appeared behind him. In the next moment, it merged with his body. Dragon scales appeared on Sun Xing's body, and at this moment, Sun Xing's true yuan also erupted. Earth Upper Class Martial Skill, Red Dragon Heavenly Sovereign Seal. Sun Xing roared, and in the next moment, he formed a seal with both hands and blasted it out. Heaven and earth trembled, the red dragon roared, and the space shattered. Seeing this, everyone's face changed, and the half-step Sea of Soul Realm was even more excited. Young Master Sun has used this move. Tianyang will definitely lose. Even the two Sea of Soul Realms' faces were solemn. This move, Ling Yuhan still had a smile on her face. Boom! Tianyang didn't move, and once again took this move head-on. The smoke scattered, and the entire battle arena was shrouded in a cloud of dust. Sun Xing took a few steps back, and his face was slightly pale. Using this move consumed a lot of his energy. Tianyang, on the other hand, stood in the same place. 108 true dragon patterns appeared on the true dragon core, and the rolling dragon power gathered, directly swallowing the power of this seal. Third move. With a wave of his hand, the smoke and dust dispersed, and Tianyang walked out as if nothing had happened. Next, it's my turn. Tianyang chuckled, and in the next moment, under everyone's shocked gaze, he waved his hand. Boom! As if it could cover the heaven and earth and explode the power of ancient times, it exploded from Tianyang's body. A huge palm print flew out from Tianyang's hand. Sun Xing's face changed, and he hurriedly activated the power of the Red Dragon Martial Spirit. But unfortunately, boom! Chapter 578. Instant kill. It was really just a casual wave. Seeing the scene of Sun Xing being sent flying without any resistance, everyone was so shocked that their mouths were wide open. They were unable to say a complete sentence, especially that half-step Sea of Soul Realm. He was completely dumbfounded. It wasn't that he didn't understand, but that the world was changing too quickly. How many seconds had it been? Tianyang had directly turned the tables from being beaten to being instantly killed? What was going on? That half-step Sea of Soul Realm was completely speechless, and so were the two Sea of Soul Realm youths. They knew that Tianyang was strong, but they didn't know that he was this strong. He didn't even block and was hit by Sun Xing's big move 3 times. Not to mention that he was unharmed. He still had the strength to defeat Sun Xing with a casual wave. This kind of strength was simply terrifying. How is this possible? At this moment, Sun Xing crawled up from the ground and looked at Tianyang, who was standing proudly on the stage, with a look of disbelief on his face. I can't accept this. This guy is younger than me. How can he be so strong? Earth-class peerless martial skill, Scarlet Dragon, Sovereign Seal. Sun Xing roared, forming seals in his hands, forming a huge Scarlet Dragon seal again, and blasting towards Tianyang. This time, under his rage, the power of the Scarlet Dragon Sovereign Seal was even stronger than before. Oh! Seeing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows, chuckled, and waved his hand again. Boom! The Scarlet Dragon Sovereign Seal was shattered again, and even Sun Xing himself was embedded into the ground by this casual wave of attack. It took a lot of effort for him to crawl out again. How is this possible? How is this possible? I don't believe it. Sun Xing roared and soared into the sky again. The Scarlet Dragon Martial Spirit erupted with peerless power and attacked Tianyang again. However, this time, Tianyang didn't even have the interest to raise his hand. Get lost. Tianyang snorted coldly, and the true yuan of the third level of Sea of Soul Realm in his body instantly erupted. The terrifying power not only sent Sun Xing flying again, but also crushed the whole audience at the same time. In an instant, everyone knew what level of cultivation Tianyang had reached. Third level of Sea of Soul's realm. The two senior disciples of the Star's swordsmanship sect, who were at the first level of Sea of Soul realm, were truly dumbfounded. Not long ago, Tianyang's cultivation base was only at the peak of half Sea of Soul realm. Since when did it become the third level of Sea of Soul realm? This speed was simply terrifying. Third level of Sea of Soul's realm. That half-step Sea of Soul's realm warrior from before even had the thought of dying at this moment. A third-level Sea of Soul's realm warrior being able to battle with a peak half-step Sea of Soul's realm warrior was already a loss of face. In the end, he had actually been jumping around on the side, looking down on this third-level Sea of Soul realm expert. If it was someone with a bad temper, they would have slapped him to death long ago. As for the others, their faces were filled with astonishment, except for Sun Xing. I refuse to accept this. Sun Xing stubbornly crawled out of the pit. His crimson dragon martial spirit circulated once again, and a torrential martial spirit's power erupted. Sun Xing once again rushed out to kill. I refuse to accept this. Scram. I refuse to accept this. Scram. I refuse to accept this. Scram. Sun Xing rushed up again and again, and Tianyang also threw him back again and again. This repeated countless times, until Sun Xing no longer had the strength to crawl out of the pit that was getting deeper and deeper. Only then did he stop. However, those people all turned their heads away, not want to see the cruel scene of a third-level Sea of Soul's realm warrior beating a peak half-step Sea of Soul's realm warrior. Secondly, they didn't want to see Sun Xing being stupid. The person before them was a Sea of Soul's realm expert. In the end, this Sun Xing actually rushed up again and again. Aya, this is too cruel. I can't even look anymore. Tianyang looked at Ling Yuhan, who was covering her face while revealing her big eyes through the gaps between her fingers. This disciple of his, did she make a mistake somewhere? However, Tianyang didn't care about this right now, and at this moment, a scene that shocked him happened. He saw a stubborn and straight hand reach out from the deep pit, grabbing the edge of the pit. It can't be again. Senior Brother Tang, who had been trying to mediate the fight, was shocked. Just how stubborn was this guy to be able to do this? He had already been hung up and whipped countless times, yet he was still stubbornly struggling. If he used this on cultivation, he would be able to become a spirit king in a few years. Crack! A strange cracking sound rang out. Everyone looked towards the source of the sound, only to see that the edge of the pit that Sun Xing was grabbing had cracked open, and there were even signs of it expanding. Everyone, crack, pong. Sun Xing fell down. Tianyang couldn't watch anymore. He walked to the edge of the pit and immediately saw Sun Xing, who was covered in blood and holding a piece of rock, lying on the ground with a dazed expression. Your perseverance is really amazing. This time, I won't let you crawl anymore. Use whatever moves you have. Tianyang looked at Sun Xing and felt that he was a bit cruel. Although he didn't hit him hard, it was easy to beat him into depression again and again. If he had known earlier, he would have just slapped him until he fainted. Moves? Hearing this, Sun Xing looked at Tianyang in a daze and immediately shuddered. He said with a long face, "Stop hitting me. I admit defeat. I admit defeat." Star swordplay sect in the arena. Tianyang looked at Sun Xing, who was being sent for treatment, and was speechless. If you admit defeat, so be it. Why didn't you say so earlier? Why did you end up in such a sorry state? Tianyang shook his head, then looked at the people in front of him. I've told you, with your strength, you're all cannon fodder in the martial arts conference. You're not convinced, right? Tianyang said. Hearing this, everyone shook their heads, but Tianyang could still see that they were not convinced. After all, although he was strong, it was impossible for everyone in the martial arts conference to be so strong. Although martial arts were prosperous in the central region, it was impossible for a ruthless person like Tianyang to be everywhere. Seeing these people's unconvinced expressions, Tianyang shook his head. I'm telling the truth. The martial arts conference is the martial arts conference of the entire central region. It determines the strength of each sect. And in the martial arts conference, if you want to survive, you have to be at least at the peak of half-step C of Soul Realm. If you want to get an excellent result, you have to be at least at the second layer of C of Soul Realm. In a martial arts conference, first layer C of Soul Realm warriors are like dogs. Second layer C of Soul Realm warriors are everywhere. Third layer C of Soul Realm warriors are everywhere. And fourth layer C of Soul Realm warriors are fighting. Let's not talk about peak half-step C of Soul Realm warriors for now. Do you half-step C of Soul Realm warriors plan to be killed by the aftermath of those almighty C of Soul Realm warriors, or by the dangers inside the Earth Emperor's secret realm? Tianyang said. Hearing this, those half-step C of Soul Realm warriors immediately shrunk their heads. First layer C of Soul Realm warriors are like dogs. Second layer C of Soul Realm warriors are everywhere. F*CK. Is this still a game for humans? The central region is too big. Just the human forces alone are innumerable. Not to mention, small forces may not necessarily be unable to produce great geniuses, and the great forces have even more geniuses. In addition, dragon race, beast race, and other races can also participate in this martial arts conference. Tell me, what are you going to do? Tianyang said. Hearing this, everyone immediately fell silent. I withdraw. I withdraw. I withdraw. I withdraw. I withdraw. Those 5 half-step C of Soul Realm warriors lamented. They knew that this was a fortuitous encounter. However, fortuitous encounters required one's life. Losing one's life for fortuitous encounters was not worth it. Hearing this, Tianyang chuckled and nodded. Don't worry. If you don't participate in the martial arts conference, the Star Sword sect will not treat you unfairly. Not to mention, 20 years later, you will still be in the martial arts conference. Tianyang smiled. Hearing this, the eyes of those 5 half-step C of Soul Realm warriors immediately lit up. Seeing this scene, those 2 C of Soul Realm warriors and a few peak half-step C of Soul Realm warriors all looked at Tianyang with incomparable shock. First, he let the cannon fodder leave, then used the Star Sword sect to tempt them. After giving them a big stick and a sweet date, he made these few talents stay in the Star Sword sect. Tianyang's method was brilliant. Chapter 579. After teaching these troublemakers a lesson, Tianyang did not stay in Star Swordplay sect for long. The martial arts contest was a grand event that covered the entire central region. It was impossible for Tianyang not to participate. Therefore, he had to make preparations early. The venue of the martial art contest was the largest city in the central region, the Earthly Sovereign Small World in Earthly Sovereign City. Earthly Sovereign City. Earthly Sovereign Small World? Interesting. Tianyang chuckled and sat cross-legged in Tianyuan Tower. Countless information about Earthly Sovereign City appeared in his mind. Earthly Sovereign City was the martial arts sanctuary of the central region. It was a city controlled by Red Flame Sect and was also the largest city controlled by Red Flame Sect. Due to the Earthly Sovereign Small World, Earthly Sovereign City was extremely prosperous. It was much more prosperous than Sun Moon City. This time, the martial arts contest was organized by Red Flame Sect in Earthly Sovereign Small World. It will take at least a few days to reach Earthly Sovereign City from Star's Swordplay Sect. I can cultivate for a while. Tianyang chuckled and closed his eyes to enter a state of cultivation. As for the others, they were cultivating in seclusion in various levels of Tianyuan Tower. After being shocked by Tianyang, they did not dare to be as arrogant as before. For the opportunity in the martial arts contest and for their own lives, they had to cultivate diligently. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. When Tianyang woke up from his state of cultivation, he was already at the border of Earthly Sovereign City. Compared to Sun Moon Sect, it's even better. The martial arts sanctuary is indeed powerful. After walking out of Tianyuan Tower, Tianyang sensed the surrounding spiritual qi and chuckled. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth was an important standard to judge whether a force was powerful or not. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth in Earthly Sovereign City was almost 200 times that of Northern Wilderness region. Yes, speaking of which, didn't Master kill a disciple of the martial arts sanctuary called Niefengyan? I heard that Niefengyan was from Red Flame sect. Ling Yuhan said from the side. Upon hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. When he killed Han Tianxiong and Han Tianpeng in the Great Void Secret Realm, Niefengyan seemed to have appeared. However, it was naturally impossible for a mere soul imprint to force him to stop. Tianyang didn't even think about it and destroyed it with a wave of his hand. If Niefengyan was really from the Scarlet Flame sect, then interesting. All right, enough talk. Let's enter the city. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing his words, the few Sea of Soul Realm and peak half-step Sea of Soul Realm warriors behind him also nodded and followed him cautiously. They were the top existences in Star's swordplay sect, but they knew that they were nothing in earthly Imperial City. If they were still arrogant here, they wouldn't be able to find out who the murderer was when they were killed. The Earth Emperor City was vast and majestic. It occupied an area of several 100,000 miles. Like the Sun Moon City, it was divided into two cities, the inner and outer. Tianyang and the others were naturally going to the inner city. Visitors, show your identification or show your cultivation base. At the gate of the inner city, the guard said indifferently. There was a sense of arrogance in his eyes. As a guard of the inner city of earthly Imperial City, even if he was just a guard, he was extremely arrogant. After all, earthly Imperial City was a city under the martial Holy Land. Hearing this, the group of people in front of Tianyang nodded. They opened their space bags, and a certificate appeared in their hands. Second-rate force? TSK. Seeing the words on the certificate, the guard laughed in disdain. Then he stretched out his hand and started to grope a pretty girl in the group. Ah! The young girl's expression changed drastically, but the leader of the group in front of her gritted his teeth and gestured to the young girl. Seeing this, the young girl's face turned ashen, and she could only let the guard's hand touch her body as he pleased. After a few minutes, the guard withdrew his hand reluctantly and picked up the long spear that represented the guards of earthly Imperial City. All right, you can go in now. He didn't bother to hide the pride between his brows. How can this guard be like this? At the back, Ling Yuhan was so angry that her skin was flushed red. She had seen arrogant and despotic guards before, but she had never seen such an arrogant one. This guard was at most at the origin transformation realm. The girl was at least at the peak of the third heaven of the Tao fire realm. In the end, the guard molested the girl, and the girl couldn't fight back because of the leader. What was going on? Earthly Imperial City is the largest city under the Scarlet Flame sect. As a guard, it's natural for him to be arrogant and despotic. Tianyang said indifferently. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. At this moment, it was their turn. Only those who were at least at the third level of the origin transformation stage can enter. The guard looked at the Tianyang group and said disdainfully. His gaze swept across the group and stopped on Ling Yuhan. Even in the central region, not many could compare to Ling Yuhan's beauty. Moreover, this was Earthly Imperial City. The beauties in Earthly Imperial City were all superior existences. How could a lowly guard like him see them? Now that he saw Ling Yuhan, he couldn't take his eyes off her. A cold look flashed across Tianyang's face when he saw this. We are from the Star's Swordplay sect. We are here to participate in the martial arts convention. The Sea of Soul Realm cultivator from before walked up and showed the Star's Swordplay sect certificate. Only those who showed the certificate could participate in the martial arts conference. Otherwise, the Heavenly Sun sect would have already shown their cultivation and entered the city. Star's Swordplay sect? Is there such a sect? Looking at the name of the sect on the identification, the guard was stunned. He then smiled disdainfully. So it's a third-rate sect. TSK. A third-rate sect dares to participate in the martial arts convention. You really don't know your place. Hearing this, the Sea of Soul Realm cultivator's face turned ugly. The other people's faces turned gloomy. This guard was simply a dog relying on its master's power. All right, the men can go in. The women can stay. The guard laughed and glanced at Ling Yuhan and a few other women. He didn't hide the lust in his words. Seeing this scene, the few people who had entered the city earlier sighed. The guards of the earthly imperial city are simply lawless. But what can they do? Do you think the Star's swordplay sect dares to attack? Boom! The aura of the third heaven of the soul realm exploded. The guard's body hit the city gate and blood spurted out of his mouth. Many bones in his body were broken. His dantian was broken. Black blood, mixed with pieces of his internal organs, spurted out. Even if he didn't die now, he would die in a short while. How dare this trash be so arrogant? Chapter 580. Big Brother Tianyang, you're so domineering. Sun Xing stood at the back and exclaimed as he watched Tianyang calmly make a move. On the other side, Ling Yuhan watched the scene and smiled faintly. Not far away, the people from the second-rate forces were all dumbfounded. They actually beat up the guards of the Earth Emperor's city? The group of people exclaimed in shock. At this moment, the half-dead guard also struggled to climb out of the wall, spitting out blood as he glared at Tianyang's group. You actually dared to beat me, the guard roared. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. So what if I beat you? You beat me, which means you're looking down on the entire Earth Emperor's city. You're stepping on the entire Earth Emperor's city. You're ignoring the rules of the Red Flame sect. Just you wait. Soon, our captain will be here. You might think that you're strong at the third level of the Sea of Soul Realm, but our captain is a genuine peak third-level Sea of Soul Realm. The guard roared. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. A group of Transformation Realm Guard captains had the strength of peak third-level Sea of Soul Realm. This gap was a little too big. At this moment, Sun Xing saw Tianyang's confusion. He moved closer to Tianyang's ear and explained, Big Brother Tianyang, the captain of the Earth Emperor City is usually not just the captain of the city gate guards. It's possible that he's also the leader of the Earth Emperor City's garrison. Without the cultivation of Sea of Soul Realm, it's almost impossible to be a captain. Hearing this, Tianyang immediately understood. However, he didn't pay much attention to it. At this moment, he had broken through to the third level of the Sea of Soul Realm. With the boundless spiritual ocean and his various powerful techniques, he could even fight against a Spirit King. If he used the sky-devouring secret technique, his cultivation would probably rise to the Spirit King level. Tianyang didn't pay much attention to the captain of the Earth Emperor's city, who was only one level higher than him. All right, I'll wait here. Before that, don't die. Tianyang chuckled and pointed his finger. Vital origin energy, which was filled with vitality, was poured into the guard's body. At the same time, the guard's physical body was strengthened greatly. Of course, this quintessential origin energy didn't heal his injuries. Instead, it made the guard's nerves 10 or 20 times more sensitive than an ordinary person's. Ah! When the guard was touched, he immediately screamed crazily. If it weren't for the fact that all the bones in his body were broken and it was extremely difficult for him to move an inch, he would have already been rolling on the ground. Every cell and every nerve in his body felt like they were being tortured, especially around his wounds. Even the slightest friction would bring him endless pain. The guard spat out another mouthful of blood and was on the verge of death. However, with the help of Tianyang's finger, the guard was still hanging on to his last breath. Even Sun Xing was shocked. Tianyang's move was too ruthless. It was fine if the guard was seriously injured, but looking at the situation, it seemed like he wouldn't die even if he died. However, Sun Xing didn't have the slightest bit of pity for the guard. When they arrived, they saw a girl from a second-rate force being molested by this guy. Then, what about before they arrived? After all, the Star Swordplay sect wasn't the only third-rate force that came to earthly Imperial City. Where did this group of people come from? Not far away, the girl who was molested was shocked. Everyone had heard of the arrogance and despotism of the guards in earthly Imperial City. Before she came, she had already prepared herself. She thought that the few girls would be molested by the arrogant guard, but in the end, they were beaten to such a state. She didn't know why, but at the same time, she felt a surge of pleasure in her heart. At the same time, the way she looked at Tianyang also changed. Zhu Yan, hurry up and leave. If you stay here and the captain of earthly Imperial City thinks that you are in cahoots with them, it won't be good. At this time, the leader of the second-rate force hurriedly shouted. Hearing this, the girl who was called Ju Yin nodded her head reluctantly and left with the leader. Tianyang, on the other hand, didn't care at all. He stood beside the guard indifferently, waiting for the captain to arrive. Who did this? Tianyang didn't have to wait for long before an angry roar came from not far away. A tall and burly middle-aged man rushed over with a face full of rage. As he got closer, he could see more clearly that the guard was begging for death. Until now, he was still screaming miserably. When the middle-aged man saw this, his face became distorted. Who did this? The middle-aged man roared angrily. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. I did it. So what? So it was you. The middle-aged man turned his head and stared at Tianyang. You guys, where did you come from? Even if you are from other martial arts holy lands, you have to restrain yourself here. This is the earthly imperial city of the Scarlet Flame sect, not your force. Captain, they're from a third-rate force. At this moment, the guard uttered his last few words before fainting completely. Third-rate force. Hearing this, the middle-aged man's eyebrows twitched. He sneered in his heart, and his eyes were burning with anger. A third-rate force dares to be arrogant in front of the earthly imperial city. Boy, you are arrogant, the middle-aged man said angrily. Hearing this, Tianyang sneered and walked out. I'm arrogant? You are just a lackey who abused your power. First, you laid your hands on a girl from second-rate force. Then, you have your eyes on our female disciple. I'm arrogant? Then, aren't you even more arrogant when you condone these things? Tianyang sneered. Hearing this, the middle-aged man was shocked. He didn't expect the guards to be so brazen. Usually, they only acted at night. However, thinking about the girls that the guards brought to him from time to time, the middle-aged man's face darkened. He sneered. It's your honor that the guards of the earthly imperial city want your women. You didn't hand them over obediently. Instead, you laid your hands on the people of the earthly imperial city. You have no respect for the law. Men, take them down. The middle-aged man sneered. Then, a few guards rushed out from nowhere. They waved their long spears and attacked Tianyang's group. The middle-aged man stood in place with a calm look. In his opinion, as long as he was standing there, these guys from the third-rate force would not dare to attack. How dare you speak rudely to the captain? You are courting death. Oof. How dare you block our way to earn money? Boy, you are dead meat. Many of the guards had hideous smiles on their faces. They charged toward Tianyang and released their true origin. They almost surrounded Tianyang. However, boom, boom, boom. This time, Tianyang didn't attack. Sun Xing laughed loudly and blasted the guards away. Bang, bang, bang. A few of the guards hit the ground heavily. They spat out blood and lost the ability to fight. Little trash, how dare you attack Big Brother Tianyang? I can destroy you with a finger. Sun Xing laughed loudly. At this time, the middle-aged man finally reacted. Good, good, good. After so many years, this is the first time someone dares to. Don't mention the name. I don't even want to hear the name of scum like you. Tianyang laughed lightly and punched across the air. Dragon King Divine Fist, 10,000 dragons slaughtering gods. Countless dragon chi blasted out and charged toward the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's face changed drastically. Damn it! Earth Intermediate Martial Skill, Black Earth Shield. Boom! In front of a Heaven Intermediate Martial Skill, the so-called Earth Intermediate Martial Skill was just trash. The Black Earth Shield was instantly broken. Under the pile of earth and rocks was the middle-aged man's horrified face. Boom! The middle-aged man was blasted away. Chapter 581. He sent the captain flying with one punch. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. The guard that had mocked Sun Xing earlier was also shocked. As for the guards that had been sent flying by Sun Xing, they were all shocked. That was a captain at the peak of the third level of the Sea of Soul Realm. In their eyes, he was in existence as high and mighty as a god. But in the end, he was sent flying with one punch by this youngster. How is this possible? Damn it! At this moment, the captain who was sent flying suddenly stood up. His eyes seemed to spew fire, and the veins on his forehead bulged. In the next moment, he directly punched out. "You dare to humiliate me like this? Today you must die." The captain roared. In the next moment, the true essence of the peak of the third level of the Sea of Soul realm gushed out crazily, and a thick yellow, true essence appeared in his hand. Earth tier, high-grade martial skill, mountain-shattering fist. The captain's figure flashed and arrived in front of Tianyang. The true essence in his body gushed out crazily, and the corners of his mouth carried a sinister smile. He waved his fist and directly charged out. "You won't cry until you see the coffin." Tianyang curled his lips and raised his seemingly thin fist, fiercely colliding with the captain's fist. Bang! Numerous energy ripples spread out, and layers upon layers of chi waves exploded. Everyone was pushed back countless miles by this aftershock, and Tianyang's expression didn't change at all. He once again punched out. Bang! The captain, who was originally able to barely maintain a tie, could no longer hold on and was sent flying by this punch. How is this possible? The guards were all dumbstruck. However, this time, Tianyang wouldn't let the captain be sent flying so easily. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and Tianyang used the 9 heavens roaming dragon steps. His figure was like a bolt of lightning as he madly charged out. Bang! Tianyang directly arrived in front of the captain, turned around, and kicked out. The captain's figure was once again sent flying, but this time he flew in the opposite direction. Bastard! The captain roared and released the true essence of the peak of the third level of the Sea of Soul realm. Only then did he stabilize his body in midair. His gaze was fixed on Tianyang, and his figure flashed as he punched out. "I don't believe that you can still break this punch." Earth tier martial skill, red flame sky shattering fist. True essence gushed out and transformed into a crimson flame. The surrounding space was roasted by this flame until it was somewhat distorted. Seeing this, the several guards immediately became excited. This is Red Flame Sec's signature martial skill, Red Flame Sky Shattering Fist. The captain used this move, the captain's sky shattering sky. You dare to be so arrogant just because you have some strength? Such a person will die sooner or later. The guards mocked. Hearing that, the group from Star Swordplay sect had a slight change in expression. It was actually a martial technique from the Scarlet Flame sect. If that was the case, Tianyang would be in grave danger. Sun Xing's gaze was fixed on Tianyang. "Tianyang, you can't lose." However, Ling Yuhan still looked calm. She was never worried about Tianyang. After all, Tianyang was invincible. "Heh, you dare to show off with this flame?" Even Jun Tian wouldn't dare to do this. Tianyang chuckled, and a black gold flame burned on his fist. Hearing this, the captain was instantly enraged. "How dare you mock our Red Flame's sex flame? Kid, you're courting death." Red Flame's sky-shattering fist destroy him. The captain roared. In the next moment, a flame so red that it seemed to be able to illuminate half the sky rushed out like a fire dragon. It opened its ferocious mouth and attacked Tianyang. At this moment, Tianyang smiled faintly. He didn't use any martial skill, but only heaven-shattering flame. The black gold flame soared into the sky. In the next moment, Tianyang punched out and collided with the red flame sky-shattering fist. Boom! Without any suspense, the heaven-shattering flame suppressed the fire dragon formed by the red flame sky-shattering fist. Tianyang's true origin and physical strength also killed the captain in an instant. With the true dragon body and the endless spirit sea, Tianyang's physical strength and true origin were invincible in the same realm. Bang! The fire dragon collapsed. What? Seeing this, the captain's face changed. The true origin in his body surged again. However, before he could make a new move, Tianyang punched him in the face. Puff! The captain spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body flew out like a cannonball and landed heavily on the city gate. Rumble! Even the city gate was slightly shaken. The captain spat out blood again and again. Who knew how many of his ribs were broken? The true origin in his body was exhausted to the extreme. His strong face was also pale. His eyes were still filled with disbelief. He couldn't believe that this youth, who was even lower than him, had such powerful strength. TSK trash. Tianyang curled his lips and retracted his fist. At this moment, an even stronger aura suddenly enveloped them. The guards all revealed a trace of fear. When the captain felt this aura, he immediately revealed a trace of ecstasy. Ha ha! Although I don't know who you are, but you, a stinky bug from a third-rate force, are dead now. So what if you have the strength to beat me? In front of a Spirit King level general, you are just trash. The captain laughed crazily. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression turned cold. He frowned slightly. They had just entered the city, and he was going to expose his trump card of the Heaven-Devouring secret technique. If he used the Heaven-Devouring secret technique, Tianyang would definitely be able to deal with his Spirit King level general. However, if he did that, Tianyang's biggest trump card would be exposed. Just as Tianyang's thoughts were spinning, a cold snort came from the sky. You actually dare to behave so atrociously in my Earth Emperor city. Are you not putting me, who, in your eyes? A cold snort came. Hearing this, Tianyang's brows slightly twitched. He raised his head and looked over. His face revealed a trace of interest. In the sky, a tall figure flew over with extreme speed. His face seemed to have been carved by a knife. The aura of a fifth-level sea of Soul Realm exploded out. At this moment, Tianyang laughed lightly. I thought that the true Spirit King had descended. I didn't expect that it was only a soul clone. Tianyang laughed lightly. Hearing this, the captain suddenly revealed a trace of a cold smile. Kid, I'm afraid you haven't seen a Spirit King expert yet. A true Spirit King expert, even if only a trace of power, can crush you thousands of times. Now that general who has descended, you can also wait for death. The captain laughed heartily. Hearing this, Tianyang shook his head. If the Spirit King personally descends, perhaps I will take him more seriously. As for a soul clone, the corner of Tianyang's mouth slightly curved. In the next moment, he used the sky-treading secret technique, and his figure instantly disappeared from where he was standing. Where is he? Seeing the figure below suddenly disappear, General Hu's face slightly changed. At this moment, a faint laughter came from above him. Seeing you fly so slowly, you must be tired. Why don't you let me give you the strength of a kick? Tianyang laughed lightly. Hearing this, General Hu's eyes suddenly widened. You dare! However, Tianyang didn't say anything. Using his foot, he replied. Bang! Tianyang's foot stomped down, and General Hu's figure immediately fell towards the ground uncontrollably. Chapter 582. Punk. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the dignified general of the Earth Emperor city, a fifth-level sea of Soul Realm expert, Great General Hu Soul Doppelganger, was stomped down by Tianyang just like that. This, even Sun Xing, was dumbfounded. Even he had heard of General Hu before. This general, who was a well-known figure among the fifth-level sea of Soul Realm experts. With a pair of iron hands, he had killed countless experts who dared to oppose him. In the end, he was kicked down by Tianyang just like that. Was there a need to be so explosive? As for Tianyang, he landed leisurely as if nothing had happened. Looking at General Hu had been stomped into a huge pit, he chuckled. Now calm down, right? Hearing this, General Hu immediately raised his head, his eyes blood red. Calm down my ass. The aura of a fifth-level sea of Soul Realm expert instantly erupted. Seeing this, Tianyang's expression darkened slightly. A black light flashed in his hand, and the stick's sword appeared in his hand. Extreme Earth Tier Martial Skill, Lion King's Fierce Mountain Claw. General Hu roared, and a Lion King's shadow appeared behind him, instantly fusing with him. This was General Hu's martial spirit, the Golden Spirit Lion King. And the might of this move, because of the martial spirit's display, became even stronger. Displaying martial spirit as soon as he arrived. Seeing this, Tianyang was stunned, then he chuckled. On the True Dragon's core, the 109th pattern, the Nether pattern, erupted with endless nether force. Rolling nether death chi gathered, and Tianyang slashed out without hesitation. Stick's sword art, Third style, River of Forgetfulness. Boom! The terrifying claw from the Lion King and the hellish river of forgetfulness collided fiercely. Annihilating heavenly fire instantly rose, but this time it wasn't as easy as it was against the captain. To be able to block my claw, your strength is not bad. However, you shouldn't have been so impudent in my Earth Emperor's city. General Hu's face turned slightly cold. His fifth-level Sea of Souls realm Zhen Yuan exploded completely, releasing a rolling pressure towards Tianyang. No matter how many grievances you had and how many reasons you had to take action, you shouldn't have attacked the people of Earthly Emperor's city in the first place. Based on this point alone, you have already been sentenced to death. General Hu said coldly. Hearing this, Tianyang's face gradually darkened. He had thought that the high-ranking general in Earthly Imperial City would reason with him. However, he had not expected that the general would be as overbearing and domineering as the captain. Since that was the case, there was no need for him to hold back. Death penalty? I want to see how a puny little spirit king will sentence me to death. Tianyang threw his head back and laughed. Rays of light were released from the stick's sword in his hand. A murderous aura gushed out from Tianyang's body. Everything around him seemed to be covered in a layer of blood. Slaughter domain, open. This is a domain. Seeing this scene, General Hu's pupils shrank. He immediately recognized it. Then, he said with jealousy, You actually have a domain. A domain could control an area. It could be said that as long as a person with a domain opened up, the area within the domain would be his home ground. Even General Hu himself did not have a domain. He did not expect that this guy, who he did not put in his eyes, would have a domain that he yearned for even in his dreams. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant. It turns out that you have a domain to rely on. Unfortunately, in Earthly Imperial City, even if you have a domain, you are still not my opponent. General Hu laughed loudly. His Zhen Yuan of the Spirit King level completely exploded. A faint shadow of a Lion King appeared behind him. Peerless Earth Tier martial skill. Lion King's soul-shattering fist. General Hu roared. The Zhen Yuan in his body mixed with the power of his martial spirit surged out. In the darkness, it was as if a terrifying Lion King roared. Waves of Void Fist Prince, which specialized in attacking the soul, ruthlessly rushed towards Tianyang. Ha! Lion King's soul-shattering fist. I did not expect this little bastard from a third-rate force to force General Hu to use this move. This move is specialized in targeting the soul. This kid is targeted by this move. Even if his physical body does not die, his soul will be severely injured. The captain, who is still embedded in the city gate, laughed wildly. Hearing this, everyone's faces changed. Soul attack. The soul had always been ethereal and difficult to find. However, it was the foundation of a person. Therefore, soul attacks were extremely strange. However, the effect was extremely great. Even if Tianyang was strong, it did not mean that Tianyang's soul power was strong. This Lion King's soul-shattering fist actually had the effect of targeting the soul. Tianyang, I'm afraid. Targeting the soul? Hearing this, the corners of Tianyang's mouth curled up. Playing with the soul in front of him? Wasn't this showing off in front of Master Wan? Since that's the case, I'll return the favor. Underworld Spirit's Wrath. Tianyang roared furiously as the soul attack of the Lion King soul-crushing fist was instantly annihilated. Then, the Underworld Spirit Heaven's Wrath, which came from the Netherworld's inheritance, attacked General Hu mercilessly after annihilating the Lion King soul-crushing fist. At the same time, Tianyang's stick sword moved. Stick sword skill, fourth form, Tao, of Azura. Tianyang snorted coldly and slashed out with his sword. Bloody light twined around his sword, as if he was the incarnation of Azura. In terms of substance, he also shattered the fist. Instantly, General Hu's physical body and soul were in great danger. Damn it! How was this possible? Seeing this, General Hu's face changed drastically. He hurriedly activated the power of his martial soul and started to roar crazily. Upper grade Earth rank martial soul, Golden Soul Lion King, Lion Soul Protection. General Hu roared angrily. In the next moment, General Hu's soul was suddenly covered by a seemingly sturdy lion soul in Tianyang's field of vision. Golden light flowed around the lion soul. It seemed to be impregnable and indestructible. However, when Tianyang saw this, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. How can such a lousy thing block my wrath of the Netherworld? The Netherworld Battle Hall spirit will be furious. Boom! In the next moment, the Netherworld's wrath of the Netherworld and Tao of Azura hit General Hu hard. Puff! General Hu's face turned pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The sturdy armor on his chest vibrated rapidly and barely blocked the sword. However, General Hu felt as if his internal organs were on fire, and he felt extremely uncomfortable. What was more terrifying was his soul. The Lion Soul Protection of the Golden Soul Lion King was almost destroyed by Tianyang's Netherworld's wrath of the Netherworld. General Hu's entire body was hit by the Netherworld's wrath of the Netherworld. His martial soul was destroyed, and his soul was severely injured. Tianyang did not hold back. He activated the devouring power of the heavenly sword and devoured part of General Hu's martial soul. He was now closer to the legendary heaven rank martial soul. At this moment, General Hu's severely injured soul could no longer support his body, and he fell to the ground with a loud bang. He looked even worse than the senior captain. With the stick sword in his hand, Tianyang calmly lifted his head and looked around. Countless people looked at the scene in shock. Even the people from the Star Swordplay sect behind him were shocked. In the sky, countless people looked at him with fear, but none of them dared to make a move. Outside the city gate, the group of first-rate and second-rate forces shut their mouths and looked at Tianyang in fear. They were afraid that he would kill them too. He punched the guard captain and stepped on the general. Seeing this, Tianyang chuckled. Chapter 583. Punching the captain of the guards, stepping on the general, and asking who else? Sun Xing's blood boiled as he watched. This was what a real man should be like. General Hu was defeated, the captain was done for, and the first guy who was beaten by Tianyang was probably dead. As for those who were beaten by Sun Xing, even if they could stand up, they probably wouldn't dare. The strongest warrior in the Earth Emperor City was undoubtedly General Hu, who could be considered one of the strongest warriors in the 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm. Unfortunately, even General Hu had fallen in front of Tianyang. Although Sun Xing was also a spirit king, he was still a bit weaker than General Hu. Naturally, he couldn't get involved. Thus, for the first time, Tianyang felt like he had defeated the whole city. Big brother Tianyang is mighty. Sun Xing immediately jumped up and said excitedly. Hearing this, Tianyang was speechless and knocked on Sun Xing's head. Come on, you're in the limelight this time. Tianyang muttered, although this General Hu is only a soul clone of the real General Hu and only had some power. If the real General Hu was here, he probably wouldn't be able to beat Tianyang. Thus, Tianyang deeply understood what it meant to be on the cusp of the storm. Looking at the expressions of the people around him, Tianyang knew that he had made a big name today. However, Tianyang didn't care too much. Exposed his strength. Come on, they only knew that he was strong. As for how strong he was and how strong he was, they knew nothing. Since that was the case, he might as well be more arrogant and overbearing. Cough, 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 cough. General Hu was lying on the ground and vomiting blood crazily. This old clone was also about to dissipate. At this moment, Tianyang took a few steps forward, squatted down, and said indifferently, after being beaten up by me, you couldn't even protect this soul clone. Even your real body was implicated. Are you not convinced? Tianyang said. Hearing this, General Hu struggled for a moment. Although he didn't shake his head or nod, he obviously admitted it. After all, Tianyang was only at the 3rd level of Sea of Spirit Realm, but he was able to beat him, a 5th level Sea of Spirit Realm Spirit King. No one would be convinced. However, have you ever thought about why I would attack your captain and guards if I wasn't out of my mind? Tianyang sneered. Is this bunch of weaklings worth my time? Hearing this, General Hu was just about to get angry, but he suddenly realized that it was true. In front of Tianyang's horrifying strength, those transformation realm guards and even the captains, who were at the peak of the third level of Sea of Souls realm, were all weak chickens. Tianyang did not look like he had nothing better to do than to find trouble with the Earth Emperor city. Why would he make a move? Only then did General Hu realize that he had acted against Tianyang without knowing anything. The way he looked at the brigade leader had also changed. Seeing this, the senior captain's soul almost left his body. His heart trembling, he hurriedly shouted, "General, this brat just killed our guards and seriously injured me. Even your soul avatar is about to be destroyed. This guy's words can't be trusted," the senior captain shouted. Hearing this, General Hu frowned and said coldly, "Whether I can believe it or not, I have my own conclusion. Why'd I need you to tell me? I still don't know your name, but say it," General Hu said. His hatred for Tianyang had decreased by a lot. On the contrary, he looked at the senior captain with even more disdain. Hearing this, Tianyang chuckled and told the whole story from beginning to end. Hearing this, the senior captain became even more crazy. "It can't be trusted. It can't be trusted. I've been the senior captain for so many years. How come I've never heard of such a thing? General Hu, you can't be fooled by this villain," the senior captain screamed. Hearing this, General Hu frowned, but he was already somewhat convinced. However, General Hu still had some reservations about the Earth Emperor's city, so he called over a guard who looked like he could still move. "Tell me, is it true or not? Tell me the truth, or else," General Hu said lightly. Hearing this, the guard broke out in cold sweat. Tell the truth? He was also one of them. If he told the truth, wouldn't he be skinned alive? However, if he didn't tell the truth and was discovered by General Hu, he might not be able to keep his life. It's the truth. At this moment, a delicate voice came from the side. A young girl looked angrily at the hesitant guard and said angrily. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. He didn't expect someone to appear before the guard said anything. When he saw the young girl who spoke, he couldn't help but be stunned. Wasn't this person the disciple from the second-rate force who entered the city before him? "Zhu Yan, what are you doing? Even if you want these people to be punished, you shouldn't stand out now. If you do this, you'll lose your innocence." At this moment, two young men who looked slightly older flew out and said anxiously. Hearing this, the young girl called Zhu Yan shook her head. "There's no need to do this. I've already made up my mind. Today, I must expose the ugly faces of these people to the public," Zhu Yan said. Hearing this, the two young men's expressions darkened, but they only sighed. "All right, but have you considered the consequences of doing this?" "Consequences? At most, I won't be able to find a partner. What's the big deal? Didn't the Ice Emperor from 10,000 years ago also live alone?" Zhu Yan said with a smile. Hearing this, the two young men shook their heads and flew back. At this moment, the captain whose face had turned pale because of Zhu Yan's appearance roared again. "Impossible! Impossible! It's all fake. This fellow must have colluded with this third-rate force's lowly commoner. They're all slandering us. If one person is slandering us, what if I'm included? What if I'm included? What if I'm included? Me too." Because Zhu Yan took the lead, countless female disciples stood out from the surrounding crowd and roared with righteous indignation. Hearing this, the captain's face turned completely pale. Colluding with one or two people was still understandable. However, there were dozens of people who stood out, dozens of witnesses, even if none of the guards admitted it. It was enough to convict him of the crime. "General, I was wrong. It's all true." At this moment, the guard who had been pointed out by General Hu suddenly knelt down and cried. Hearing this, General Hu's face turned ashen. He coldly glanced at the large captain and roared, "What are you talking about? Earthly Royal Army, get your ass over here." Yes. Following General Hu's loud roar, tall and straight figures suddenly emerged from the crowd. Every single one of them had a cultivation at the peak of the origin transformation realm. "Take these guards and that son of a bitch Zhang Minghai away. As for the other guards, tell them to stay where they are and wait for orders. When we get back, I'll investigate thoroughly." General Hu roared angrily. Hearing this, the soldiers nodded and rushed forward. The captain's face was gloomy. He lowered his head and allowed the earthly royal army to capture him. After the soldiers had taken these people away, General Hu turned his head and said apologetically, "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for misunderstanding you." Hearing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. "It's okay. It's good enough that this group of people is executed." Hearing this, General Hu heaved a sigh of relief. The soul doppelganger disappeared completely. Tianyang looked at the light spots that were gradually disappearing and muttered in his heart, "What a pity." Chapter 584. After taking care of General Hu, the Tianyang group did not stay at the city gate for long. After all, killing the guards and beating up the captain was already eye-catching enough. Now that he had stepped on the general and stood there, he was waiting to be treated like a panda. Therefore, after General Hu's soul doppelganger was destroyed, the Tianyang group forced their way through the crowd and walked towards the center of Earth Imperial City. After the main character left, the group of people naturally dispersed. However, they all remembered a young face in their hearts. He was from a third-rate force. He looked extremely young, but he had the ability to kill the captain of Earth Imperial City and General Hu. Inside Earth Imperial City, the Tianyang group walked on the main road. "Master, you were so cool just now." Ling Yuhan ran to Tianyang's side and said excitedly. Previously, there were too many people and she could not vent her anger. Now that there were fewer people around and no one recognized her, Ling Yuhan's girlish heart suddenly flared up. Sun Xing, the salted fish who only knew how to shout "awesome," also came up with a look of amazement. "Big brother, after so many years, this is the first time I'm impressed. You beat them up in their territory, and in the end, you can still convince them. I've only seen such an awesome person in my life," Sun Xing said. Hearing that, Tianyang felt a headache coming on. It was fine if this group of people were praising him, but they were still nagging beside him. His ears were about to burst. "By the way, you haven't eaten in a long time, right? There's a restaurant over there. Let's go and have something to eat." Tianyang changed the topic. Hearing that, everyone was instantly interested. As cultivators, they had already reached the level of fasting. However, this did not mean that they did not have a desire for good food. After all, who would complain about having too much good food? It was just that they were usually either cultivating or fighting. They had no time to eat. Today, when Tianyang brought it up, their attention was naturally diverted. "Sure," Sun Xing said happily. "I haven't eaten in a few years. Let's go." The corner of Tianyang's mouth twitched. He hadn't eaten for years. However, it wasn't easy to change the topic, so Tianyang wasn't stupid enough to complain. Instead, he led everyone into the restaurant. The restaurant was huge, and it was quite popular. There were people going in and out at all times. Earth's Sovereign Tower? Interesting, this restaurant actually has such a name. Tianyang raised his eyebrows and chuckled. Then he walked in. Tianyang sensed a faint tyrannical fluctuation in the earthly monarch tower. If he was not mistaken, there should be a powerful array formation in this restaurant called the earthly monarch tower. It was just a restaurant, but there was a formation that even he could notice. It seemed like this earthly monarch tower was not ordinary. "Welcome. Are you here for a meal or a place to stay? If you want to stay, there are other places to choose from." As soon as Tianyang and his group walked in, a waiter walked up and greeted them respectfully. Hearing that, Tianyang didn't hesitate and said, "Let's eat." They already had a place to stay in the Earth Imperial City. "Okay." The waiter nodded and led the group to a table by the window. "Would you like to sit here, dear guests?" the waiter said. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and a faint smile appeared on his face. "What if we want to go to the second floor?" The waiter's expression changed slightly, but he quickly returned to his previous respectful look. "It's no problem to go to the second floor, but it will cost you 5,000 low-grade spiritual stones." Hearing that, everyone around Tianyang was stunned. 5,000 low-grade spiritual stones to go to the second floor? Is this a scam or a ripoff? Even if this was the Earth Imperial City, it shouldn't be so expensive. If your formation is really at that level, then it's fine. But now, we're just here for a meal, so we won't go. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing that, the waiter was stunned. Usually, Those who could see the secret of the second floor were extraordinary cultivators. Most of them would choose to go up. Now that they had seen through it, why wouldn't they go up? However, the waiter didn't hesitate for too long. He smiled and said, "Here's the menu. Take your time, sir. I'll take my leave first." The waiter took out a thick menu from his space bag and handed it to Tianyang. At this moment, an arrogant sneer was heard. "Wait." Tianyang's expression changed. At this moment, a slightly feminine young man walked to the side of the table and looked down at Tianyang, who hadn't taken a seat. "You look unfamiliar. You must be from other places. Okay, I'll give you 500 low-grade spiritual stones to change your seat," the feminine young man said. Hearing that, Sun Xing was the first one who couldn't sit still. He jumped up from his seat and looked at the feminine young man. 500 low-grade spiritual stones? Do you think we're beggars? We've been here for a while. Do you think we'll take it just because you said so? Sun Xing said. Hearing that, the feminine young man's expression turned cold. How dare you disobey me? Don't be like this, young masterly. They were here first. First come, first served. Why don't we change seats and go to the second floor? The waiter said hurriedly. Hearing that, young masterly snorted and threw the waiter aside. Second floor? I'm here to eat, not to cultivate. If I'm here to cultivate, wouldn't it be better for me to return to the Scarlet Flame sect? Giving you 500 low-grade spiritual stones is me giving you face. Now that I'm angry, why aren't you getting lost? Young Masterly said coldly. Sun Xing was stunned. They were from the Scarlet Flame sect? The Scarlet Flame sect was a holy land of martial arts. Although they had just taught the strongest person in Earthly Imperial City a lesson, it was only because Earthly Imperial City was just a city of the Scarlet Flame sect. There was no need to station too many strong people there. However, the Scarlet Flame sect was different. A holy land of martial arts was definitely not an ordinary force. An existence of that level could turn the Star's swordplay sect into ashes with just a move. Li Dapeng, what's your relationship with Nye Fengyan? Tianyang suddenly asked. Hearing that, Li Dapeng was stunned. He looked at Tianyang with a serious expression. Why? Do you know my cousin? Tianyang chuckled. Seeing that this guy was similar to Nye Fengyan, he asked. Unexpectedly, it was true. No, I guess so. I wonder if you've heard of my name. Tianyang said plainly. Hearing that, Li Dapeng was stunned. Then his eyes lit up. Tianyang, so you're the Tianyang that my cousin has been looking for? Ha! God is helping me. I can't believe I met you here. Men, take him down. Hand him over to my cousin. This time, that middle-grade Earth-rank martial skill is mine. Li Dapeng laughed loudly. With a command, the black-clothed first-level sea of Soul Realm warriors behind him instantly attacked. Young Masterly wants to capture you. You'd better surrender obediently. One of the black-clothed men laughed sinisterly. He directly channeled his true essence and grabbed towards Tianyang's head. At this moment, Tianyang chuckled and shook his finger. A terrifying gust of wind erupted from Tianyang's body. Boom, boom, boom. Those first-level sea of Soul Realm cultivators were directly blown away by this gust of wind. They spat out blood and almost lost their combat strength. WHAT. Seeing this scene, Li Dapeng's expression changed drastically. He didn't expect Tianyang's strength to be so powerful. Didn't Nye Fengyun say that Tianyang was only at the peak of the third level of Dao, Fire Realm? You actually dare to make a move in the Earth Monarch Tower. The Earth Monarch Tower will never let you go. Looking at Tianyang, who was getting closer and closer, Li Dapeng roared with a pale face. Hearing this, the gazes of the diners on the first floor of the Earth Monarch Tower all turned towards Tianyang. Indeed, you can't make a move in the Earth Monarch Tower. However, if it's Brother Tianyang, then it's different. At this moment, a chuckle came from behind. When the waiter heard this voice, he immediately straightened his back and said respectfully, Young master. The person nodded and then walked to Tianyang's side. Don't you think so? That person said. Seeing this, Li Dapeng's face immediately turned pale. Tianyang, who was beside him, was a little surprised. Chapter 585. Jun Aoyang. Tianyang was a little surprised. He hadn't expected to meet Jun Aoyang here. However, when he remembered that the Sun Moon sect had already arrived, Tianyang felt relieved. He was still a little surprised by the waiter's exclamation. However, at this moment, Li Dapeng was really trembling all over. He had never imagined that Jun Aoyang would appear here. Moreover, Tianyang seemed to be very familiar with him. Let's talk about this later. Jun Aoyang nodded, but didn't say anything. He only smiled apologetically at Tianyang. The main point now wasn't to reminisce about the past. Jun Aoyang turned around and looked at Li Dapeng. He chuckled. What? You said that no one is allowed to fight in my Earth Monarch Tower? Then, what did you want to say when you fought earlier? You can fight, but others can't? By doing this, are you looking down on my Earth Emperor's pagoda and the Sun Moon sect? Jun Aoyang said. Li Dapeng fell to the ground with a thump, his whole body trembling. Disrespecting the Sun Moon sect? How would he dare? Ever since the Sun Moon sect had a Heaven Ascension realm expert, countless forces, even martial arts holy lands, wanted to befriend the Sun Moon sect. After all, having a Heaven Ascension realm expert meant that this force had the foundation to become a martial arts holy land. In this world, who would dare to offend a martial arts holy land? If Jun Aoyang insisted on messing with him, even the Red Flame sect behind him wouldn't say anything. After all, he was only brought into the Red Flame sect by Nie Fengyun's connections. Even these first-level Sea of Soul Realm guards were arranged by Nie Fengyun. He himself didn't have any status in the Red Flame sect. No, Lord Jun Aoyang, please be magnanimous and let me go like a fart. Li Dapeng forced himself up and knelt before Jun Aoyang, crying. Jun Aoyang raised his eyebrows and looked at Tianyang. It's useless for you to say that to me. Seeing this, the group of diners at the side sucked in a breath of cold air. Jun Aoyang actually wanted to seek Tianyang's opinion. They thought that Jun Aoyang knew the guy called Tianyang, but they didn't expect that he didn't just know him. Tianyang's status was even higher than Jun Aoyang's. He knew Jun Aoyang. He was the young master of the Sun Moon sect, the future master of the Sun Moon sect. However, who was this Tianyang? Even Li Dapeng couldn't react in time. Only when he saw Jun Aoyang's cold expression did he realize what was going on. Turning around, he knelt down in front of Tianyang and respectfully kowtowed a few times. Lord Tianyang, you're magnanimous. Please be magnanimous and let me go like a fart. I have a 90-year-old mother and a 3-year-old son. I can't die, Li Dapeng said. Hearing this, Tianyang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect this Li Dapeng to be so good at talking. A 90-year-old mother? You look like you're in your 20s or 30s. Your mother is really amazing. However, after hearing this, Tianyang didn't want to continue. This Li Dapeng didn't deserve to die. All right, get out. Don't let me see you again, Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, Li Dapeng respectfully kowtowed a few times, then lay on the ground and rolled out of the Earth Emperor Tower. Seeing this, Tianyang was speechless. Only after Li Dapeng rolled out did the few First Sea of Soul Realm cultivators crawl up. They didn't dare to look at Jun Aoyang and Tianyang as they sneaked out. Tianyang couldn't be bothered with these small fries. When he first arrived in the central region, these First Sea of Soul Realm cultivators were considered almighty experts. Now, they weren't even worth a fart in front of him. Outside the Earth Emperor Tower, Li Dapeng stood up in a sorry state. He stared at Tianyang for a while, then retracted his gaze and said angrily to those First Sea of Soul Realm cultivators, "You bunch of trash. He only moved a finger. You were blasted away. Is your first level Sea of Soul Realm cultivation base just for show?" Li Dapeng roared. Hearing this, those black-robed men didn't say a word. Then, Li Dapeng walked to an empty corner and continued to vent his anger on those black-robed men. I didn't even touch you with a finger, and you're already on your knees. What did my cousin raise you for? A bunch of trash. Useless. Li Dapeng roared. Hearing this, those black-robed men's faces twitched. Then they pounced on Li Dapeng. I don't want to be a guard anymore. If worse comes to worst, I won't stay in Earth Emperor City anymore. I'll beat you up first. With a roar, those black-robed men pounced on Li Dapeng. With their first CE of Soul Realm cultivation, they easily injured Li Dapeng, who was only at the second sky of Dao Fire Realm. Then, they snorted and left. The Scarlet Flames sect didn't go back either. With their first CE of Soul Realm cultivation, where couldn't they go in the Central Region and Sky Continent? After a full 15 minutes, Li Dapeng, whose face was bruised and swollen, climbed up from the dark corner. His luxurious robe was completely tattered, and there were wounds all over his body. Bah! Bah! This bunch of bastards! Li Dapeng spat out 2 mouthfuls of dirty water before standing up. I can't let these people go. But that damn Tianyang, I can't let him go either. I'll contact cousin Ye Fengyin right now. When the martial arts competition starts, this Tianyang is dead for sure. Li Dapeng roared and took out the communication token from his pocket. In the Earth Monarch Tower, Brother Tianyang, I'm sorry for making a fool of myself. Jun Aoyang said embarrassedly. When he first came, he was told by Jun Tian to treat Tianyang better than him as a VIP if he met him. In the end, Tianyang, a VIP among VIPs, was actually provoked by this idiot Li Dapeng in his own territory. This made Jun Aoyang feel ashamed. It's all right. There are trillions of people in the Central Region. It's impossible for there not to be a few idiots. Tianyang laughed, but he looked around with interest. This Earth Monarch Tower is the property of the Sun-Moon sect. Yes, to be precise, it's the Great Elder Zhou Shandao's. This is one of his escape routes. However, Zhou Shandao died in the hands of the old ancestor, so this Earth Monarch Tower is naturally ours. Jun Aoyang laughed. Brother Tianyang, are you interested? If you are, there's no harm in giving this Earth Monarch Tower to you. Hearing this, Tianyang shook his head. I don't care about this. Hearing this, Jun Aoyang laughed. Then, Brother Tianyang, don't worry and eat. Why don't we go to the second floor? There's a spirit gathering array on the second floor, so it's quieter. No need. Tianyang laughed. It's here. Hearing this, Jun Aoyang nodded. Then, contact me if you need anything. Then Jun Aoyang went back. Tianyang calmly continued to eat his meal. Chapter 586. This Tianyang dares to ignore my existence. He entered the earthly imperial city and even injured my cousin. In the Scarlet Flame sect, Nie Fengyin looked at the contents of the communication token with a cold expression and sneered. Do you really think that you can bark in front of me just because you know Jun Aoyang? If it weren't for the fact that the martial arts conference is about to start, and I can't make a move, you would be crushed by me in minutes. Nie Fengyin sneered as a trace of 4th level C of Soul Realm cultivation was revealed from his body. As a disciple of the Scarlet Flame sect, Nie Fengyin not only had a strong cultivation, but his combat strength was also extremely strong. Compared to the Sun-Moon sect, Tianyang had once commanded Jun Aoyang to defeat Zhou Xingtian. He was much stronger. He was the 107th existence on the spirit list. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that such an existence looked down on all the geniuses below the Spirit King realm. The day the martial arts conference starts will be the day you die. Nie Fengyin snorted coldly. Tianyang. So the person who punched the captain and stepped on General, who is called Tianyang. In another place in the earthly imperial city, Zhu Yin looked at the information she had obtained with great difficulty and was shocked. Born in a third-rate force, dazzling in the Great Void Mystery Realm, suspected to have obtained the inheritance of the Great Void Emperor, and entered the Sun-Moon sect for a period of time. During that period of time, the Sun-Moon sect already had a Heaven Ascension Realm expert. This Tianyang's resume is a little too strong. It doesn't match the third-rate force at all, Zhu Yin said. However, no one here could answer her. However, it doesn't matter how strong he is. When I, Zhu Yin, chase a man, I never look at his strength. With a chuckle, Zhu Yin carefully put away this piece of information and entered the state of cultivation. There were only a dozen days left before the martial arts conference started. This time was extremely important. Even those geniuses couldn't relax casually. In the Dragon Clan's residence in the earthly imperial city, Tianyang, in a mansion, a red-haired youth looked at the information in shock. Isn't Isn't this Tianji, Sword Emperor? If Tianyang were to see this young man, he would be shocked. Wasn't this the red dragon at the peak of the origin transformation realm, Ao Ling, whom he had met in the fearsome beast mountain range of the Snow Gale State when he had just been reborn? It was just that the current Ao Ling was many times stronger compared to back then. He was already at the peak of Sea of Soul Realm. Since it is the Sky Pole Sword Emperor, there is hope for our Red Dragon tribe, Ao Ling said excitedly. At this moment, a call came from outside. Ao Ling, come out for a moment. Hearing Tianyang, Tititishin on. Dragon, dragon, dragon. Dragon, dragon, dragon. Was go. Dragon, dragon, too. Dragon, 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 dragon clan. Dragon, dragon, dragon. Of dragon, 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 dragon. Red, 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 crimson, dragon, red, to crimson, crimson. To be able to defeat Spirit King's soul clone, this Tianyang is really powerful. Outside Earth Emperor's city, a tall and sturdy man looked at the information in his hand and muttered to himself. Hearing this, the charming woman beside him spat out her tongue and smiled. Spirit King? Lord Crimson Demon, aren't you one? Hearing this, the sturdy man called Crimson Demon King nodded. Indeed. However, he can be considered one of the more powerful people in the human race. The opening of Earth Emperor Small World this time isn't as simple as the martial arts competition. We can't close ourselves off. We have to learn a thing or two about the powerful geniuses of other races and forces. Therefore, Charming Snake, you can continue to collect, Crimson Demon King said. Hearing this, the charming woman nodded and swayed her long tail as she walked outside. The closer she got to the door, the smaller her tail shrunk. In the end, as peak Sea of Soul Realm aura leaked out, the woman also turned into a human. If others were to see these two, they would be incomparably shocked. These two were the top prodigies of this generation of the Demon Clan. Earth Emperor City, Star's Swordplay Sect's encampment. Star Swordplay Sect was only a small sect. Although it had a good reputation, it was mostly because of Tianyang. Earth Emperor City wouldn't arrange a large house for a third-rate force. However, after discovering that it was Tianyang's group, General Hu personally rushed over and hastily arranged a more luxurious house for them. Only then would they not have to squeeze in with 7 or 8 people. Humph! After reaching the Sea of Soul Realm, cultivation is indeed not that easy to increase. Tianyang let out a long breath and muttered to himself. When he broke through to the Sea of Soul Realm, the Spirit Sea he opened was the Endless Spirit Sea. The accumulation of the Endless Spirit Sea to break through is simply terrifying to the extreme. Even if Tianyang used the Heaven-Devouring Seal and Divine Desolate Sky Spirit Arts to assist his cultivation, it would still be difficult for him to break through to the peak of the Third Sea of Soul Realm. The reason why he could reach the Third Sea of Soul Realm as soon as he stepped into the Sea of Soul Realm was completely due to the power of the Sacred Spirit Pool. However, although I didn't reach the peak, I still improved a little. It's about time. Tianyang chuckled and stood up. In the past 10 days, he had been living in seclusion and rarely went out. He had been cultivating in the Earth Emperor City. The effect wasn't too bad. And today was the day of the Martial Arts Conference. Inside and outside the Earth Emperor City, countless people had awakened from their cultivation state at this moment. In the center of the Earth Emperor City, a huge plaza had been temporarily opened. After all, this was the martial arts conference that countless forces of the Central Region were participating in together. Apart from the Earth Emperor City, other cities, such as the Sun Moon City, had also set up teleportation arrays, and there were also many people. When Tianyang's group rushed to the center of the Earth Emperor City, they discovered that the plaza was already filled with people. On the teleportation array, a purple light was shining, and it was about to open. It's Tianyang. It's the Star's Swordplay Sect. As expected, apart from Tianyang, there aren't many people in the Star Swordplay Sect that are worth looking at. As expected, a third-rate force is a third-rate force. Shoo, lower your voice. It's said that Tianyang is a genius who can rank in the top 100 of the Spirit List. What's said? Don't you know that the Spirit List has been updated these few days? Tianyang is ranked 89th on the spirit list. What? When the crowd saw Tianyang's group arrive, there was a burst of discussion. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression didn't change as he turned around. Do you see that? This is because of strength. If you're strong, people will respect you. Those who are weak are nothing, Tianyang said. Hearing this, Sun Xing and the rest nodded unwillingly. They were also geniuses in their hometowns, but here they had become foils. At this moment, the teleportation array suddenly erupted with rays of light. Countless people were excited. Following the fluctuations in space, the entire plaza quieted down. Countless people widened their eyes and looked over nervously. In the distance, countless experts from major forces were also staring at the teleportation array. Next, a huge spatial gate opened. The Earth Emperor's small world and the Tianshao Great World had established a connection. Chapter 587. The martial arts conference had begun. Everyone's eyes flickered and their minds were in turmoil. The moment the spatial door opened, they rushed over. Oomph! Get out of my way! At this moment, a tyrannical roar sounded. A body that resembled a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus rushed past everyone and flew towards the spatial door. Seeing this, everyone was furious. Just as they were about to speak, they recognized who this person was in the next moment, and their faces turned pale. Isn't this person the Tyrannosaurus King Hong Wei, ranked 56th on the spirit leaderboard? I didn't expect him to be here too. At this moment, just as everyone was exclaiming in surprise, another white figure also entered the spatial door like a ghost. 62nd on the spirit leaderboard by M.O. Everyone turned to look, and they were instantly shocked. In the next moment, another person walked into the spatial door with a long saber in hand and a cold expression. 74th on the spirit leaderboard, chaotic saber demon. I didn't expect so many top 100 experts to appear at the beginning of the martial arts conference. These people were not famous before. I didn't expect them to appear at the beginning of the martial arts conference. In comparison, Tianyang, who was in the limelight previously, doesn't seem to be much. 89th on the spirit leaderboard is indeed not bad. However, compared to these people, he's still lacking a lot. Someone sighed. Hearing this, the faces of the Stars Swordplay sect members turned ugly. What does Big Brother Tianyang have to do with these people? Limelight? If it weren't for the shameless guards at the city gate, what limelight would Big Brother Tianyang have? Sun Xing was furious. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression was indifferent and his mood was calm. It's fine. Things like strength don't rely on words. It can only be obtained through real battles. Let's go in now, Tianyang said. Hearing this, everyone nodded and stepped into the spatial door. Streaks of light radiated from the people of the Stars Swordplay sect, connecting them together. Then, the light of the teleportation formation flashed, and they all disappeared into the spatial gate. In the Earthly Emperor small world, rays of silver light flashed, and Tianyang's group appeared on a wasteland at the same time. They actually didn't get separated? Tianyang was a little surprised. Logically speaking, such a large-scale teleportation formation should not be able to accurately teleport every team together. However, when Tianyang saw the Star's swordsmanship sect certificate that automatically appeared in his hand, he immediately understood. Previously, when he sensed the appearance of this proof, he thought that something had happened. It turned out that it was used to connect them together so that they would not be teleported away. This is the earthly sovereign small world. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth has not changed, although it is still as dense as before. Tianyang looked around. It was said that the earthly emperor's small world was a small world that had existed since ancient times. There were various kinds of ancient ferocious beasts and opportunities. Now that he looked at it, it didn't seem like anything. At this moment, another silver light flashed from the side. A few more people came to the wasteland where Tianyang's group was. The two teams bumped into each other. It's the Stars Swordplay sect. Tianyang is here. It's not good to provoke him. Let's go first. The team exchanged glances with Tianyang's group, then shook their heads and left. Now that the earthly Emperor Small World had just opened, there was not a single person who needed to collect the azure crystals. The two teams did not have any interest in each other, so naturally, they would not act rashly. However, Tianyong also felt a trace of hostility from the team. After all, from the beginning of the martial arts conference, all the teams were potential enemies. Ignore them. We will explore ourselves, Tianyong muttered to himself. At this moment, the team came a few miles away and suddenly stopped. This is azure crystals, and it's a huge pile of azure crystal ores. A cry of surprise sounded. Tianyong's expression changed slightly as he looked over. It was the team from before. At this moment, they had stopped in the air above a swamp, looking at the center of the swamp in shock. The dark blue ores scattered in the swamp, especially in the center of the swamp, were the azure crystals they were looking for. These azure crystal ores were still very crude, but as long as they were slightly refined with true essence, they would become azure crystals that could be used to calculate points. Captain, you guys go and guard against the Stars swordplay sect. We will go and mine first. At this moment, a youth in the team transmitted a message to the others. Hearing this, the others nodded. Azure crystals could not only be used as points, but could also be used for cultivation when they went out. The energy contained within the azure crystals could not be directly absorbed, but could catalyze the absorption of Reiki and even increase the speed of one's absorption of heaven and earth spirit chi. Such a treasure, even if the martial arts conference did not exist, would cause others to be wary. Moreover, they were in the middle of the martial arts conference. The person who seemed to be the captain nodded and released his Zhen Yuan at the peak of the third level of Sea of Soul Realm. He looked at Sky Sun with fear. Brother Tianyong, do you want to snatch it? At this moment, Sun Xing was eager to give it a try. Hearing this, Tianyong's expression did not change. Using his soul power, he chuckled, "Let's watch first." At this moment, the youth had already collected a few pieces of azure crystal ores. If they were refined, there would be dozens of standard azure crystals. I didn't expect our luck to be so good, the youth said excitedly. Hearing this, the captain nodded. At this moment, an unforeseen event occurred. Hiss! A sharp hissing sound came from the swamp, and in the next moment, a yellow python with 8 heads rushed out of the swamp. Seeing this, the youth's expression changed greatly. At this moment, the 8-headed python suddenly erupted with the aura of a rank 5 demonic beast, not inferior to a Sea of Soul Realm cultivator. It firmly locked the youth in place. In the next moment, the python's mouth in the middle suddenly opened wide. Gulp! The young man was instantly devoured by the 8 giant pythons. Xiao Zhuang. Seeing this scene, the captain's eyes were about to split open, and he charged towards the 8-headed python. How dare you eat my brother? Bastard, you're courting death. The captain roared, pulled out a long spear, and charged towards the 8-headed python. Hiss! The 8-headed python hissed and spat out its tongue, which had a strong stench, and charged towards the captain. The captain's expression changed greatly. He waved his long spear, wanting to block this attack. However, he was caught by the python's tongue and was swallowed into the python's stomach. All of this happened too quickly. It happened in a few seconds. Even Tianyong could not react in time. At this moment, Tianyong's eyes were burning as he looked at the 8-headed python. Chapter 588. Orochi, Desolate Snake. Tianyong's eyes shone as he looked at the 8-headed snake in front of him. His heart was slightly shaken as he exclaimed. The Orochi, Desolate Snake was a fierce beast from ancient times. It had already gone extinct in the ancient times, which was the era of Emperor Taishu. Even Tianyong had only seen a few skeletons. Who would have thought that he would actually see a living Orochi, Desolate Snake in this earthly Emperor Small World? In ancient times, the environment was harsh, and the strong preyed on the weak. This Orochi, Desolate Snake was also abnormally powerful. Looking at it, this Orochi, Desolate Snake seems to be a purebred bloodline. In other words, this guy is very powerful. Tianyong's expression turned serious. At this moment, the Orochi, Desolate Snake seemed to have sensed Tianyong's group. It actually gave up on the few-peak half-step sea of Soul Realm experts and charged towards them. This Orochi Desolate Snake was not stupid. If it did not kill Tianyang's group first, then it was very likely that Tianyang would reap the benefits. This beast is really not stupid. Seeing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. A black light flashed in his hand, and the stick's sword appeared. However, a beast will always be a beast. It knows how to differentiate between friend and foe. Unfortunately, it doesn't know how to compare strength. Stick's sword technique. Third style, River of Forgetfulness. Tianyang snorted coldly. In the next moment, endless underworld power erupted from the real dragon pellet. It carried rolling underworld death chi as it slashed towards the Orochi Desolate Snake. With one slash, the surroundings were destroyed. An extremely dark sword light shot out from Tianyang's stick sword as if it came from hell. The rolling underworld death chi directly caused the Orochi Desolate Snake's head to change greatly. This sword strike had actually made it, an ancient remnant, feel the danger of death. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The Orochi Desolate Serpent hissed. In the next moment, a thick earthen yellow pillar of light shot out from the mouths of its 8 heads, converging into an incomparably tyrannical pillar of light that fiercely shot towards this sword. Boom! The beam of light of Orochi and the sword of River of Forgetfulness collided fiercely, causing the space to tremble. However, even the all-out attack of Orochi did not have any effect. The Forgetfulness River Sword, with an unstoppable momentum, easily pierced through this attack that was almost at the 4th level of Sea of Soul Realm and madly charged towards the 8-headed Earth Snake. Hiss! The 8-headed Earth Serpent hissed crazily. Its body kept twisting as it tried to dodge the sword. However, it had already been imprisoned on the spot by the Nether Death Chi. With its huge body, no matter how it twisted, it would not be able to dodge this sword. Rip! A beam of crimson light shot out and blood spurted out. The Orochi Desolate Earth Snake had 3 of its heads severed by Tianyang's sword. Hiss! The Orochi Desolate Earth Snake went crazy. Its eyes were filled with a dense, blood-red color. Its muddy yellow body instantly turned blood-red. In the next moment, the remaining 5 snake heads bared their ferocious fangs and charged towards Tianyang. The poisonous fangs of the Orochi Desolate Earth Snake are said to be able to poison a Spirit King expert to death. However, no matter how strong the poison is, it has to hit first. Looking at those ferocious fangs, Tianyang chuckled. The stick's river sword in his hand swung out 2 beams of sword light in succession. Boom! Boom! The Orochi Desolate Earth Snake had almost no strength to resist. 2 more snake heads were cut off by Tianyang. The remaining 3 snake heads were also affected by Tianyang's sword and spurted out turbid blood arrows. Hiss! Now, the Orochi Desolate Earth Snake finally realized that Tianyang was no match for it. After hissing, it directly circulated its true essence. The blood it spurted out ignited with a strange flame and rushed towards the distance. Obviously, the Orochi Desolate Earth Snake wanted to escape. The true essence burned, the blood burned, and coupled with the powerful strength of the Orochi Desolate Earth Snake, in an instant, the Orochi Desolate Earth Snake turned into a beam of light and arrived a few miles away. A rank 5 magical beast was already extremely fast, not to mention a rank 5 ancient beast. Want to escape? Seeing this, Tianyang's lips curled into a slight smile. Can you escape? In the next moment, Tianyang used the void stepping secret technique. His figure instantly disappeared from the spot. A speed that was even faster than a Spirit King expert exploded in an instant. The air exploded. Tianyang had just started, but he had already surpassed the speed of sound. In the blink of an eye, Tianyang had arrived beside the Orochi Desolate Earth Snake. Hiss. Seeing Tianyang arrive, the Orochi Desolate Earth Snake immediately trembled. The remaining 3 snake heads kept shaking, and there was a trace of fear in its eyes. You want to submit to me? Tianyang was proficient in the languages of the Sky Continent. Naturally, He could tell the meaning of the Orochi desolate earth snake's actions. However, although he could tell, Tianyong had no intention of agreeing. If you hadn't eaten people, I might have agreed. But now, even if I take your soul imprint, I'm afraid I won't be able to sleep well. Tianyong shook his head. The stick's sword in his hand shone with a cold light. Billowing murderous intent exploded. Upon seeing this, the Orochi Desolation serpent was infuriated. It opened its mouth wide and fired 6 poisonous fangs at once. You want to show off your slight skill in front of me? Tianyong chuckled. His soul power moved and blocked the fast fangs in front of him. Then, he flicked his finger. The 6 fangs pierced into the Orochi desolate earth snake scales. Tianyong shook his finger. True Yuan surged, and the Orochi desolate earth snake's body exploded into pieces. Rank 5 demonic beast, an ancient species, the infamous Orochi desolate earth snake of the ancient times, turned into a cloud of blood in the sky, just like that. What a pity. If it was given to a mortal to eat, they could directly become a body refinement realm cultivator. Tianyong shook his head. It was a pity. The meat of the Orochi desolate earth snake was very nutritious. However, it didn't taste good. Tianyong didn't care. At this moment, 2 figures flew out from the cloud of blood. They were battered and exhausted. They were the team leader from before and the young man who collected the heavenly blue crystal ores. Thank you for saving us. I'm very grateful. If I meet you in the future, I'll definitely repay your kindness. The team leader flew out and cupped his fists at Tianyong. The robe on his body had been corroded by the Orochi desolate earth snake's acid and was tattered. He looked extremely battered and exhausted. As for the person who was swallowed first, even his muscles were corroded and his bones could be seen. From the looks of it, he looked extremely miserable. Seeing this, Tianyong raised his eyebrows slightly. My brother is seriously injured and urgently needs medical attention. We'll leave first, the team leader said. Then, he circulated his true yuan and rushed in the direction he came from. At this moment, Tianyong chuckled and extended his hand. His true yuan condensed and blocked their path. Don't be in such a hurry to leave. Chapter 589. The Azure Crystal in the Orochi Snake's Body. Hearing this, the team leader stopped in his tracks. His expression changed slightly, but he quickly covered it up. What are you talking about? How come I don't know about this? In the Orochi Snake's body, there's nothing but acid. There's no Azure Crystal. Your Excellency Tianyong, although you're powerful, you can't extort people like this, the team leader said. Hearing this, Tianyong smiled faintly. Do you want me to snatch the Azure Crystal that's still stained with acid from your sleeve? Or do you want to give it to me yourself? Hearing this, the team leader's expression changed drastically. His gaze turned cold. Your Excellency Tianyong, it wasn't easy for us to find it in the Orochi snake's stomach. Where it's possible to let people off, we've paid such a huge price to get a little Azure Crystal. Can't we? The team leader said coldly. Hearing this, Tianyong's expression didn't change. Instead, he smiled faintly. At this moment, the young man beside the team leader suddenly changed from his sickly appearance to that of extreme anger. Team leader, why are you talking to this kind of person? Just now, when this guy was dealing with the Orochi snake, it was so easy. But now, when the two of us were eaten, he didn't even react. In my opinion, this guy is trying to steal our heavenly cyan crystal ore, the young man said angrily. Hearing this, Tianyong's expression didn't change. He didn't show any anger. Instead, the smile on his face deepened. Clap, clap. Tianyong clapped his hands twice and chuckled. Both of your acting skills are really not bad. However, since you're here, come out. Tianyong smiled faintly. In the next moment, a surge of true yuan exploded and swept in all directions. In the next moment, everyone from the previous team was forced out from all corners. Their expressions were dark as they glared at Tianyong. Tianyong, you asked for it. If you want to give me this Orochi desolate snake, then just give it to me. Why must you be so unforgiving? At this moment, the captain tore off his hypocritical mask and sneered. Now, our companions have all come out. Even if you're ranked 89th on the spirit ranking, you will still fall here. 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. When the time comes, I'll see how you die." The captain sneered. Hearing this, Tianyong suddenly raised his head and laughed loudly. That's right, that's right. I saved you out of kindness, but you repaid my kindness with enmity. I'm just taking back my spoils of war. Since that's the case, I'll take the azure crystal in your hands as well." Tianyong chuckled. Hearing this, the team leader's face sank. His face turned ferocious as he shouted angrily, "Shameless boasting. Everyone attack together. I don't believe that this fellow still has the strength to deal with us after killing the Orochi desolate snake." The team leader roared angrily. In the next moment, he directly took off his tattered robe, revealing his close-fitting battle armor. True essence condensed on his fist as he charged towards Tianyong. "Die for me. Low-grade Earth Tier martial skill, Bull Fist." The team leader roared. Peak 3rd level C of Soul Realm's true essence erupted from his body, transforming into a huge bull phantom that charged towards Tianyong. A bull possessed enormous strength. The strength of this bull fist couldn't be underestimated. At this moment, the 8 team members beside him also made their moves, condensing one tyrannical attack after another as they charged towards Tianyong. Mystic Tier martial skill, Mountain Collapsing Palm. Low-grade Earth Tier martial skill, Mountain River Seal. Middle-grade Earth Tier martial skill, Burning Mountain Boiling Sea Fist. Everyone roared as their true essence erupted, condensing one tyrannical attack after another. Even the youth who seemed to be heavily injured earlier condensed a terrifying attack at this moment, ruthlessly charging towards Tianyong. For a moment, Tianyong fell into a desperate situation where he was besieged by 9 people. Sky Continent, no matter what era it is, it's always like this. Tianyong suddenly smiled, and his gaze abruptly turned cold. Previously, he was merely being kind. Now, since this group of people repaid kindness with enmity, then he wouldn't continue to be a saint. The stick's sword in his hand flashed with light. Sky Extreme Sword Art, First Sword, Soaring Heaven. Tianyong roared as countless true essence condensed within his boundless spirit sea, exploding and transforming into an extremely swift and fierce sword light that slashed towards these attacks. Stubborn resistance. The team leader sneered disdainfully. 89th on the spirit roll, trampling on General who, in his opinion, he definitely used some method. The current Tianyong had used up quite a bit of true essence just to kill the 8-headed earth serpent. How could he possibly have spare energy to deal with them? The team leader's train of thought was indeed not bad if placed on an ordinary person. Unfortunately, he didn't know. Tianyong was a freak who possessed a boundless spirit sea. Boom, boom, boom. Soaring Heaven's sword light crazily swept out. Rolling sword chi erupted, directly engulfing those sword moves and even counterattacking. Even the team leader who shouted the most fiercely previously had a deathly pale complexion at this moment, looking at Tianyong in disbelief. Wasn't Tianyong a 3rd level Spirit Sea Realm? Why did he still have spare energy to deal with them after killing the tyrannical rank 5 magical beast? Could it be that Tianyong's true essence was inexhaustible? However, at this time, Tianyong brandished his sword once again. Sky Extreme Sword Art, Second Sword Sky Splitter. Tianyong brandished his sword once again. Annihilating heavenly flames ignited, and the power of the sun was added to the sword, completely destroying everyone's attacks together. And this sword burning with annihilating heavenly flames charged towards the team leader without hesitation. Damn it, Jianglu. I've nurtured you for so many years. It's time for you to be put to use. The team leader's expression was sinister. Looking at this unstoppable sword, he suddenly roared. In the next moment, his palm pulled to the side, and the heavily injured youth was pulled in front of him. Leader, the heavily injured youth's expression changed greatly. Just as he was about to escape, the Sky Splitter sword had already torn his body apart. Fresh blood spurted out wildly. You actually used your own teammate to block a blade for you. You're really a scumbag, Tianyong said coldly. Hearing this, the team leader laughed sinisterly. As long as I can survive, who can't be sacrificed? Tianyong, don't think that you've won. After I get out, I'll immediately spread the news of you having a sea of azure crystals to the entire earthly emperor small world. At that time, I won't have to do anything and you'll die. The team leader laughed wildly. In the next moment, a talisman suddenly appeared in his hand. It looked like it had been burning for some time. Seeing this, Tianyong's pupil shrank. This talisman, it was the 1,000 miles godly travel talisman. At this moment, the team leader spat out a mouthful of blood, which landed on the 1,000 miles godly travel talisman. Huh, Tianyong, wait for the entire earthly emperor small world's geniuses to hunt you down. We'll never meet again. The team leader laughed wildly. In the next moment, his body turned into a stream of light and rushed to the side. At this moment, Tianyong smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, the entire space was sealed. The squad leader also crashed headfirst into the spatial barrier. Before I reached the Sea of Soul Realm, I really couldn't deal with this thing. But now that I've reached the Sea of Soul Realm, you're using a defective product that was completely destroyed by Reverend Ironbone. If I can't stop you, then my reputation will be in vain. Tianyong chuckled. At this moment, the team leader's face turned pale. Big brother Tianyong, Master, don't kill me. I have the map of the earthly emperor small world. If you don't kill me, I can give it. Even if I kill you, I'll still have it. Tianyong slashed out with his sword and directly killed the team leader. After that, Tianyong executed a few more sword moves and killed all the remaining members of the team who were trying to escape. In this wasteland, blood was spurting wildly. Tianyong had always had the habit of cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots. The map of the earthly emperor small world? If you have it, then it's quite interesting. Tianyong chuckled. He stretched out his hand and summoned the team leader's space bag. Chapter 590. This guy is still playing tricks on me, even when he's about to die. Tianyong opened the space bag of the squad leader with a cold face. He had just searched through the space bag. Map? There was nothing. The squad leader was obviously using the name of the map of the earthly emperor small world to buy some time and then wait for an opportunity to escape. Tianyong clearly saw that there was not much in the space bag, but there was a large pile of 1,000 miles godly walking talismans. That said, that guy's death could be said to be well-deserved. Tianyong sneered and put away the space bag of the squad leader. Speaking of space bags, Tianyong's space bag was already filled with the space bags of quite a few people. It was just that he did not count them at the moment. If he did, perhaps the wealth would be enough to shock the entire central region. After all, the people Tianyong killed were either the genius disciples of the big forces or the real experts of the big forces, such as Yuan Kai and Venerable Ironbone. If the wealth of these people was added up, it would be comparable to the wealth of a country. However, Tianyong did not care about it. For him, it was fine as long as there were resources to use. He did not care about how many there were. Master, what's wrong? At this time, the people of the Stars swordplay sect who had sensed that something was wrong finally arrived. Looking at the blood around them and the fluctuating aura on Tianyong's body, Ling Yuhan's face suddenly turned pale. Obviously, there had been a great battle just now. Moreover, those who had said that they were going to support Tianyong were nowhere to be seen. Perhaps it was the pool of blood under their feet. It's nothing. It's just an ordinary case of biting the hand that feeds you. Tianyong waved his hand. He was already used to such things. For the sake of treasures and opportunities, not to mention a savior he didn't know, he would even kill his life brothers, wives, and children of decades of life and death. Tianyong had seen and killed a lot of people like that. I see. To think that they said they were coming to support Master. We didn't stop them when we saw how anxious they were. I didn't expect them to be this kind of people. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan immediately shouted angrily. Hearing this, Tianyong shrugged his shoulders. He was naturally aware of this point. For someone who could do such a thing, disguise was a compulsory course. However, Master is still the strongest. Even with so many people surrounding him, he still managed to kill them all. Ling Yuhan's expression suddenly changed, and she giggled. Hearing this, Tianyang shook his head and took out all the heaven azure crystals. The heavenly flame of annihilation burned fiercely, burning the impurities, soil, and stones on the ores into ashes. All that was left was the azurite crystal, which was shining with a deep blue light. The heavenly cyan crystal can be divided into dozens of ordinary heavenly cyan crystals. Moreover, the heavenly cyan crystal obtained from the Orochi desolate snake is even bigger. Tianyang then took out the heavenly cyan crystal he obtained from the Orochi desolate snake. Using the heavenly flame of annihilation, he burned the acid on it into ashes. Under the illumination of the sun, the pure azure crystal shone with a deep blue light that made one feel relaxed and happy. Just by holding it in his hand, Tianyang could feel that the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth had become a little faster. The heavenly cyan crystal is indeed a treasure that countless sects and forces dream of. Tianyang praised. At this moment, Ling Yuhan chuckled and took out a large piece of heavenly cyan crystal from her back. This was extracted from a large piece of heavenly cyan crystal ore that they found. They haven't finished mining it yet, so we took it ourselves. In total, there are about 600 to 700 pieces. Together with the one in your hand, it should be over 1,000. Ling Yuhan smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression changed slightly, and he took it. Then, he kept in the proof that it belonged to the Star's swordplay sect. In the next moment, a ray of light shot out from the proof and turned into a huge screen. On the screen, the names of various forces were listed in order. At the top, the light suddenly flashed. In the next moment, the third position suddenly changed owners. The Star's swordplay sect obtained 24 pieces of heavenly cyan crystal. Above the Star Swordplay sect were the martial arts Holy Land, the Scarlet Flame sect, and the newly risen Sun Moon sect. Even the difference between these two forces and Tianyang's group was only a few dozen pieces. It could be said that as long as they killed a few beasts, Tianyang's group could easily surpass them and become first place. Ha 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 ha! We are third. At this moment, Sun Xing laughed loudly, and his face was filled with excitement. The Martial Arts Conference was a grand event in the Central Region. The Star Swordplay sect was only a third-rate force, but they could obtain such a ranking in the Martial Arts Conference. It had to be said that luck and strength were indispensable. After all, from the beginning until now, not even 15 minutes had passed. Now, let's take a look at the individual ranking. Tianyang did not care much. Third place was only for them now. Their goal was to be first. First place in the Martial Arts Conference. First place among the countless forces in the Central Region. As Tianyang's voice fell, the list on the screen instantly distorted. Then, the individual ranking appeared on it. Second place, Scarlet Demon King, 327 pieces of heavenly cyan crystal. Third place, Tyrannosaurus King, 326 pieces of heavenly cyan crystal. Fourth place, Flame Monarch King, Jun Aoyang, 298 pieces of heavenly cyan crystal. Fifth place, Charming Snake, 276 pieces of heavenly cyan crystal. Sixth place, Ao Xiang, 271 pieces of heavenly cyan crystal. One by one, the names of the prodigies appeared on the screen. Seeing this, the crowd could not help but gasp. These people were actually so powerful. The individual ranking was based on pure combat strength. Only those that were snatched from enemies or killed by beasts would be recorded. In other words, the heavenly cyan crystal that Ling Yuhan and the rest had mined could only be counted on the sect ranking and could not be counted on a single person. However, these people were still able to obtain so many heavenly cyan crystals. From this, one could see how powerful they were. Jun Aoyang is actually in fourth place. It seems like the Sun Moon sect has paid quite a bit in this month. Tianyang laughed lightly. Jun Aoyang had just reached the peak of the first level of the Sea of Soul realm a while ago. However, it was impossible for a peak first-level Sea of Soul realm to reach such a level. The strongest person on the list, Scarlet Demon King, was able to surpass the Tyrannosaurus King. Thus, his battle strength was at least in the top 50 of the spirit ranking. As for Jun Aoyang, he was only second to the Tyrannosaurus King and Scarlet Demon King. His strength was at least in the top 100 of the spirit ranking. Even Tianyang was a little surprised by the sudden jump of so much. But why is it starting from second place? At this moment, Ling Yuhan was startled as she discovered some clues. At this moment, Tianyang laughed lightly. Because I haven't entered my name. In the next moment, Tianyang lightly tapped. A great name instantly appeared above Scarlet Demon King. Chapter 591. First place, Sword King Tianyang. 428 pieces of azure crystals. Looking at the line of words that suddenly appeared, all the people of Star's Swordplay sect were dumbfounded. Although they had guessed a few possibilities when they saw the terrifying ranking of Star's Swordplay sect, they did not expect Tianyang to be so powerful. He had crushed Flame Monarch King, Tyrannosaurus King, and King Chi Yao. He had trampled over countless geniuses to become first place. Sword King. Master is quite nostalgic. Ling Yuhan noticed the two words Sword King in front of Tianyang's name. This was the main reason why there was an option to enter his name. Sword King represented Tianyang's unparalleled swordsmanship. Tianyang had shocked the entire Firmament territory when he entered Night Dome City and was given the title of Sword King. Now that Tianyang had entered the Earthly Emperor Small World, he was naturally stronger. I just thought of it by chance. Such a name will probably attract some people to find trouble with me. Tianyang smiled. Ling Yuhan was speechless when she heard this. Other people added a title in front of their names to show that they were awesome. However, Tianyang used this title to attract hatred. However, the title of Sword King was indeed domineering. The effect of attracting hatred was also very powerful. How many swordsmen were there in the world? The people in the Earthly Emperor Small World were all geniuses and swordsmen of their own forces. Naturally, they would not be willing to be suppressed by Tianyang. The title of Sword King was destined to bring Tianyang endless trouble. However, Tianyang did not care. After all, other than King Chi Yao and a few others, the rest of the people in the Earthly Emperor Small World were just temporary storage bags of azure crystals. First place, Sword King Tianyang. In a forest, a red demonic beast with claws like a giant wolf and stripes like a leopard said coldly. In the next moment, he circulated his true origin energy and transformed into a human. He was King Chi Yao, who was currently ranked second. This sword, King Tianyang, is probably the one in the Earthly Imperial City. His strength is not bad. The reason why he can get first place now is probably because some idiots sent themselves to his doorstep. Sword King? Heh. With this name, there's no need for the demon race to do anything. Just you humans alone can kill you. King Chi Yao sneered. The huge snake beside him also reverted to human form when she heard that. A cold light flashed through her enchanting face. Then, she smiled sweetly and said, "So, are we going to hunt down human geniuses or deal with Sword King Tianyang?" According to the original plan, if Tianyang can still maintain first place in 3 days, then it won't be too late to consider it. King Chi Yao spoke indifferently. Then, he transformed into a great demon once more and charged forward. Brother Tianyang, you've gone too far this time. Not everyone can be called Sword King. At this moment in a cave, Jun Aoyang looked at the screen in front of him and broke out in cold sweat. Sword cultivators had the strongest determination and drive among all cultivators. Such a sword cultivator naturally wouldn't let a nobody like Tianyang suddenly jump on his head. Which one of the Sword Kings in the past wasn't extremely powerful in sword cultivation? Although Tianyang was powerful, the others didn't know about it. But I'd better think about myself first. Jun Aoyang laughed bitterly, then looked at his feet. This cave was on top of a huge old turtle. At this moment, the old turtle was resting with its eyes closed. However, Jun Aoyang didn't doubt that the old turtle would wake up if he moved a little. Although the old turtle in the Camelback Mountain Range hadn't reached the reaching heaven realm, it wasn't far from it. Sword King Tianyang. What a boastful tone. At this moment, A sword cultivator looked at the screen, and a trace of anger appeared on his face. He was the first disciple of the Flying Sword School. Even Yu Jianshan didn't dare to call himself Sword King. What ability did this nobody have to deserve this title? Although this guy was currently the first on the mortal ranking, after I kill this guy, I'll go find Tianyang for a fight. I'll let him know that the title of Sword King isn't something that can be obtained by killing 3 or 4 weak chickens. Yu Jianshan snorted coldly. Then he killed the magical beast in front of him and took its azurite crystal before rushing off into the distance. Tianyang did not know that he had caused such a huge commotion just because he had given a name. However, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. After all, he was a sword emperor in his previous life. He was just a sword king. Tianyang felt that he was being too modest. Although this squad leader doesn't have a map, he knows quite a bit. Tianyang muttered to himself as he sat on the Heaven Pagoda and looked at the incomplete map he found in the squad leader's spatial bag. He could see that this incomplete map corresponded to the surrounding wasteland. At the edge of the incomplete map, he could faintly see a mark. It was a mark that looked like a dragon's head. Although it's incomplete, I can still see the mark. In this case, the rest of the map doesn't matter. Tianyang chuckled. His soul force spread out and penetrated the Heaven Pagoda, radiating out to a radius of 50 miles. Within 50 miles, not a single movement could escape Tianyang's soul force scan. This way, the search would naturally be faster. However, the map was still an incomplete map. Although Tianyang could see some clues, it would still be difficult for him to find it. Just as Tianyang was about to withdraw his soul force, a sharp aura appeared at the edge of his soul force scan and rushed towards them. There's actually someone in this godforsaken place? Tianyang raised his eyebrows and stood up. At this moment, that person had completely entered the range of Tianyang's soul force. Sword manipulation technique. A shout came from that person. In the next moment, the sword on his back suddenly flew up and spiraled out in the air, as if it had a mind of its own. A tyrannical aura also erupted from the flying sword. Roar! Sensing the tyrannical aura behind it, the magical beast that was being chased suddenly changed its expression and roared. Roar, roar! In the next moment, the wings on its back suddenly flapped, and its speed increased by a lot. An ancient species, a hawk-winged dracolic. Such an existence definitely has a lot of azure crystals in its body. Want to run? You'll have to ask if my flying sword agrees. Yu Jianshan laughed loudly. With a thought, the flying sword on his back instantly rushed out and accelerated to a terrifying speed. In the next moment, it directly pierced through the hawk-winged dracolic. Roar! The hawk-winged dracolic screamed. Its heart was pierced, and its life force was gradually fading away. At this moment, Yu Jianshan suddenly felt that the sunlight seemed to have suddenly disappeared. He looked up and was immediately dumbfounded. Chapter 592. Looking at the huge heavenly tower, Yu Jianshan was almost scared out of his wits. The current heavenly tower was no longer the broken mid-grade spiritual artifact that Tianyang had obtained from the Sky Wolf Walker in the trial grounds. After so many refinements and modifications, Tianyang had already raised the grade of the heavenly tower by many levels. Although it wasn't a high-grade spiritual artifact yet, it wasn't far from it. One had to know that a high-grade spiritual artifact was something used by Heaven Ascension realm experts. For this huge tower to appear in the earthly emperor's small world, it either belonged to one of those youngsters or one of those ancient species. This huge tower looked brand new and bright. It was impossible for it to be in existence from the ancient times. Then, there was only one possibility. This huge tower belonged to a powerful genius, perhaps even a genius from a martial holy land. What the F***? Yu Jianshan wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He was only chasing a hawk-winged draconic lion. How did he encounter such an existence? There was no order in the earthly emperor's small world. For the sake of a good ranking, there were even situations where people wantonly killed others. This was why Yu Jianshan was so frightened. At this moment, a surprise voice came from the huge tower. Hawk-winged draconic lion? No wonder I didn't see it clearly before. This hawk-winged draconic lion's speed is very fast. You actually killed it. Your strength isn't bad. Hearing this, Yu Jianxin's face sank. He had experienced the hawk-winged draconic lion's speed countless times. It could be said that he had spent the last 2 hours chasing this guy. This kind of speed was only considered fast. He was the head disciple of a first-rate force, the Flying Sword School. His strength was only considered not bad. Sword cultivators all had their pride. Even if the person in front of him was a genius from a martial holy land, Yu Jianxin wasn't willing to admit defeat like this. I am the head disciple of the Flying Sword School, Yu Jianxin. May I know which genius is in the tower? Yu Jianxin cupped his fists and said. The flying sword flew back from the hawk-winged draconic lion, dripping with blood as it revolved around Yu Jianxin. With the help of this flying sword, Yu Jianxin was confident that even if the person in front of him was a genius on the level of King Qi Yao, he could still escape. Flying Sword School? I didn't expect the Flying Sword sect to still exist. No wonder you were able to kill this eagle-winged draconic lion. It turns out that you had the help of the flying sword technique. Tianyang chuckled and walked out of the Heaven Pagoda. Seeing Tianyang walk out, Yu Jianxin's heart immediately rose to its peak, but after seeing Tianyang's appearance, he was immediately shocked. Why was he so young? Tianyang was only a little over 17 years old. Compared to these 27 and 37-year-old fellows, he was not even considered a fledgling. In the end, such a young person actually had such a treasure. No, I can't see through his cultivation. At this moment, Yu Jianxin's heart trembled as he looked at Tianyang. He cultivated the sword-controlling technique, so his spiritual strength was extremely powerful. He could even clearly see experts a level higher than him. However, Tianyang's cultivation didn't seem to be very strong. Even when Yu Jianxin pushed his spiritual strength to the limit, he still couldn't see the slightest trace of Tianyang's cultivation. In such a situation, it was either to crush him or to be crushed by him. To be able to move about in the earthly emperor's small world with such a huge pagoda, it was very clear that it was the first type. Yu Jianxin's expression suddenly turned ugly. Previously, he dared to say that he could escape with the sword-controlling technique because his spiritual strength wasn't inferior to others. If this person were to attack, he would be stopped by the spiritual strength in a matter of minutes. Who are you? This eagle-winged draconic lion was my prey, and I killed it. Even if you are strong, you can't just casually snatch other people's things. Yu Jianxin's expression was somewhat ugly as he said this. Hearing this, Tianyang laughed involuntarily. Of course not. I was just a little curious about your methods. Now that I know, there's no need to stay. Tianyang smiled. The martial arts conference had just begun, so to him, ripping off the rich wasn't something he wanted to do right now. After a while, when he had more time to accumulate, those people would have more azure crystals. When that time came, he would go and snatch them. Compared to working himself to death now, the harvest would be much greater. Therefore, even if he saw this eagle-winged draconic lion, Tianyang didn't have any intention of attacking. Then, thank you very much. Hearing this, Yu Jianxin let out a sigh of relief. If the eagle-winged draconic lion that he had painstakingly hunted was really snatched away, he might not even be able to snatch it back. If he couldn't snatch it back, his reputation as the head disciple of the sword-controlling sect would be ruined here. Right? Just when Tianyang was about to return to continue searching for the location of the dragon-shaped mark on the incomplete map, Yu Jianxin suddenly spoke. Tianyang's figure also paused. Do you know the Sword King Tianyang that just appeared? I've been looking for him, but I don't know what he looks like or where he is. If you know, can you tell me? Yu Jianxin asked. Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned. The corner of his mouth curled into a strange smile. Looking for him right in front of him? However, Tianyang didn't immediately speak. Instead, he turned his back to Yu Jianxin and smiled. Sword King Tianyang? I know, but why are you looking for him? He actually knew. Yu Jianxin's eyes lit up and he hurriedly said, You might not be a sword cultivator, so you don't know the importance of the title of Sword King to us sword cultivators. Tianyang is just a nobody, yet he dares to call himself the Sword King and even obtain first place on the mortal ranking. As the head disciple of the sword-controlling sect, I naturally can't sit by and watch him act so presumptuously. It's just that I haven't seen him on the way here, so I'd like to ask you a question. I want to find him and have a duel. Yu Jianshan said loudly. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression became even more strange. His title was really effective in attracting hatred. It hadn't been long, but he'd already attracted the head disciple of a first-rate sect. Duel? Tianyang didn't immediately show it. Instead, he smiled faintly. You haven't even seen his face, yet you're so sure that his reputation is undeserved? Ah. Hearing this, Yu Jianshan was stunned. He was speechless. Indeed, he hadn't even seen Tianyang's face. To say such a thing about him was going against the principles of the righteous path. But the title of Sword King isn't something that just anyone can call themselves, Yu Jianshan said. Hearing this, Tianyang chuckled and turned around. The stick's sword suddenly appeared beside him. The instant he saw the stick's sword, Yu Jianshan's pupils shrank. He sucked in a breath of cold air. This black longsword was actually a mid-grade spiritual artifact, an existence close to a high-grade spiritual artifact. Just who was this youth? There was definitely no such person in the Scarlet Flame sect. If you want to know about Tianyang, no problem. Come, let's exchange a few moves. Chapter 593. How many moves? Hearing this, Yu Jianshan was stunned. A trace of doubt appeared in his heart. This youth couldn't be a disciple of some large power, right? He was the eldest disciple of the Flying Sword School, Yu Jianshan. The Flying Sword School's flying sword technique had been cultivated to the third heavenly layer. This kid actually wanted to challenge him? Sir, it's not that I doubt your strength, but swords have no eyes. If you injure me, wouldn't that be bad? Yu Jianshan smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyebrows twitched. It seemed like he was being looked down upon. A bit interesting. Injure? If I'm injured, I'll deal with it myself. If you're injured, you deal with it yourself. Tianyang chuckled. Afterwards, his soul force controlled the Styx River sword and instantly attacked. What? Feeling the terrifying aura of this sword, Yu Jianshan's expression immediately changed. Yu Jianshan didn't feel any true essence in this sword, but this sword, it made all the hairs on his body stand on end. He felt an extremely dangerous threat. This kind of feeling was something he hadn't felt even when fighting the eagle-winged Dracolian. Just who was this youth? For a moment, in Yu Jianshan's eyes, Tianyang suddenly changed from an ordinary youth of a large power to a scourge that wanted to devour people. Flying sword technique, sword shadow heart. Yu Jianshan angrily shouted. His surging true essence circulated, and his flying sword suddenly shot out. It split into thousands of sword shadows and ruthlessly attacked the Styx River sword. However, seeing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. You've cultivated to the point where you can control it like an arm? However, controlling it like an arm isn't something you can play with. In the next moment, a light flashed in Tianyang's eyes. The Styx River sword seemed to have grown eyes. It passed through the gaps between the layers of sword shadows. Its speed didn't decrease at all. In fact, it became even faster. Like a fish swimming in water, no obstruction or attack could escape Tianyang's eyes. They couldn't even touch the edge of the Styx River sword. What kind of monster is this? Yu Jianshan roared in his heart. He couldn't believe it. He also recognized this move. It was clearly their Flying Sword School specialty, the flying sword technique. However, even his Flying Sword School's flying sword technique was useless in front of Tianyang's flying sword technique. Yu Jianshan could clearly feel that Tianyang's flying sword technique. However, Tianyang's flying sword technique was much higher than his own. It was as if a sharp blade had fallen into the hands of a martial arts grandmaster. With a swing of the blade, it could take a person's life. One fell into the hands of a 3-year-old child, waving it around wildly. In the end, it could only injure itself. They were clearly in the same realm, but Yu Jianshan felt like he was a 3-year-old child, while Tianyang was a martial arts grandmaster. At this moment, Tianyang's Zhen Yuan exploded. The Styx River sword's speed soared to the extreme. The aura of the third layer sea of Soul Realm was released. In the next moment, a sharp sword light ruthlessly shot toward Yu Jinshan's head. Seeing that sharp sword light, Yu Jinshan only felt his mind go blank. He was the Grand Flying Sword School's head disciple, the one who wanted to compete with Tianyang for the title of Sword King. Yet, in the flying sword technique that he was so proud of, he lost to a youth who wasn't even 20 years old? F***, why didn't you dodge? At this moment, Tianyang's expression changed. He hurriedly controlled the Styx River sword to change its angle. Only then did it brush past Yu Jinshan's head. However, it also swept up Yu Jinshan's hair and cut off a few strands. Did you lose your mind? I clearly slowed down just now. Tianyang was flustered and exasperated. The person in front of him was a spirit king. Although he had just entered, he was still a spirit king. But what kind of IQ was this? He could have dodged the flying sword by twisting his head, but he didn't even dodge. In that instant, Tianyang's heart went bad. At this moment, Yu Jinshan blankly raised his hand and wiped the left side of his face. A bit of blood, just a bit, and it was caused by that sharp sword wind. I didn't die, Yu Jinshan said blankly. Hearing this, Tianyang wanted nothing more than to kick his butt. This brother wanted to die so much, right? I didn't die. However, before Tianyang could kick him, Yu Jinshan suddenly woke up and roared as if he had lost his mind. I didn't die. I didn't die. Yu Jinshan roared, scaring the group of people in the Heaven Yuan Tower into sticking their heads out. Looking at the roaring Yu Jinshan, all of them had the same thought. This person couldn't be an idiot, right? Enough. I'm not a homicidal maniac. Why would I kill you for no reason? Tianyang picked his ear and said. Hearing this, Yu Jinshan woke up and respectfully bowed to Tianyang. Thank you, Senior, for not killing me. Senior's sword-controlling technique definitely isn't limited to just this. Yu Jinshan said. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. At least you have some eyesight. Tianyang's finger moved rhythmically and the Styx sword suddenly trembled, splitting into thousands of sword images. Every sword seemed to be real. Even when Yu Jinshan used his soul strength to sense it, he couldn't see anything different. It was as if every sword was real. But in the next moment, the thousands of Styx swords instantly merged into one and soared into the sky. The sword light that seemed to tear the sky apart was so dazzling that Yu Jinshan couldn't open his eyes. But Yu Jinshan could also feel that just the power of this sword was enough to kill him 1,000 times over. This youth was actually so powerful. This is the 5th heavenly layer of sword-controlling technique, Heart's Will. Yu Jinshan was completely convinced. In the world of martial Tao, age didn't matter. Only strength mattered. Although there was a difference in age, strength was more important than age. Even if Yu Jinshan's age was several times that of Tianyang's, he still had to respectfully call Tianyang Senior. Most importantly, this senior was completely convinced of his strength. If the other disciples of the Flying Sword sect were to know of this, they would definitely be dumbfounded. In the Flying Sword sect, this senior brother of his had his eyes on the top of his head. Even the elders didn't care about him. But now, he was sincerely calling a youth senior. With senior strength, it's impossible for you to be unknown. Senior, you can go challenge Tianyang and take the position of Sword King. Yu Jinshan said seriously. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyebrows jumped. Was this guy really that stupid, or was he pretending to be stupid? My name is Tianyang, Tianyang said. Hearing this, Yu Jinshan was stunned. He suddenly raised his head. Senior, you can be the Sword King. I'll just eat and drink beside you. Scram, who's your senior? Tianyang sent Yu Jinshan flying with a kick. In the end, this guy came up again. Big brother. Then you're my big brother. You're the big brother of the entire Flying Sword sect. Scram, who's your big brother?